Okay, got the red smoke.
Gun runs north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. Get cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
What do you tell people you do for a living?
Well, it depends on the context.
Random, you're at a dinner with people you don't know.
So I will sometimes say I'm an intimacy coach or a relationship coach.
Do you go right out with that, or do you start with I'm an
yeah.
educator?
Yeah. No. I like to tell people that I'm a coach because that really is the best term that describes what I do.
Okay.
I learned early on in my career that when you say sex coach, certain people have like an automatic response. It doesn't even feel voluntary. They just have like a disgust response almost to the fact that
Do those people
sex
not
has been
have sex?
Oh, of course they have sex.
Then why do they have such a response?
Honestly, you'd have to ask them. This happened to me early on. I was flying into Chicago, and towards the end of the flight, the guy next to me asked me what I did for a living, and I said, "Oh, I'm a sex coach." And he literally threw his phone down on the ground of the plane in shock, and then was like, "What if my wife knew that I was talking to you?" And I was like, then she'd know that you were talking to a stranger on the plane. She'd never let me come to Chicago again. I was like, this sounds like something you should talk to a therapist about.
Involuntarily sat next to somebody that you didn't know what they did for a living?
And we didn't have a conversation about sex at all. We hardly spoke. But there's such sensitivity around it. And that's kind of the thing, right? Is that like, it's a thing that we all do. Imagine if we treated food or sleep with this kind of disdain, right?
It's not a thing that we all do.
That is true, but it is a thing that all of us have a relationship
You know what I mean, Michael?
to. But even the
very well.
Thank you for your honesty.
Michael, is your mom going to be okay watching this? Because I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions during this. Should she tune out now?
I'll just tell her not to listen to this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes she's like,
if I was a
Change
parent
her to
and one of
skip
my
an
kids were to say that, I'd be like, yeah, I definitely won't. And the second they left the house, I'd be figuring out what they were getting.
I mean, I
into.
don't care if she does listen to it, but I'll tell her she probably won't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I have to give, my mom has been absolutely incredible throughout my journey. I mean, I told her when I was like 16 that I was going to do something for a living, and she was
really?
like, okay. Yeah.
How did you know?
So there's a couple things that happened. I figured out how to have an orgasm early on in life, like completely naively, innocently, like a lot of people do. I figured out how to give my body pleasure. And then when I got to the age where sex ed became a thing, I started learning about what that all meant. And that conversation turned towards avoiding pregnancy and avoiding disease.
Yeah.
I had the natural inclination of like, but that's not what I've experienced. Like, this is a cool thing that your body's capable of doing. Why aren't we talking about the pleasure aspect of that?
Oh, that's not part of the traditional curriculum.
No, and I felt people were really being robbed of that part of the conversation, which is sort of like teaching driver's ed, but only teaching about accidents, right? Driving can be so pleasurable. It also gets you from point A to point B. It's like an incredible experience that you could have for pleasure as well. We don't just focus on accidents because that's not why people drive. So I had this sense that like my peers were sort of being robbed of the main point of sex in sex ed. But I knew even before I'd ever had sex, and nothing traumatic happened to me. I didn't have like a bad experience early on. I just knew this is what I was going to do for a living. It took me a while to figure out exactly how, because I didn't know that you could, that like you could really get a degree and work one-on-one with people outside of therapy. Mm-hmm. And I knew I didn't want to be a therapist. Like, I wanted to help people. I wanted to educate. My mission from early on in life has been get quality sexual education that is pleasure-centric out to as many people as possible.
Why do you think that the traditional, I'm trying to think of the sex ed that I got in the educational system. This episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. Patriotism isn't a marketing trend for Black Rifle Coffee Company. It's the foundation of the company, and Black Rifle Coffee Company has built on it since day one. Their American roasted coffee not only fuels your day, but gives back to veterans, first responders, and their families with every purchase. Last year, they eliminated medical debt, helped build homes, provided for natural disaster response teams, funded education for the children of fallen warriors, and so much more. So as America hits its 250th year, BRCC is kicking off 2026 with killer new products and the same great mission they've had from the start. Grab a bag or a box of Tacti-Squatch, Waken the Neighbors, or Spirits of 76, roast for people who get up early, train hard, and don't quit. And to fuel the new year, they're dropping cold brew coffee cans in just black and vanilla. No fluff, no excuses, just caffeine. Need something with even more horsepower? Grape X brings 200 milligrams of caffeine, zero sugar, and great blast that hits harder than a door charge. Find it at Walmart, Target, Kroger, or blackriflecoffee.com. Black Rifle Coffee, veteran founded, American roasted. This is America's coffee. I don't know if I missed that day or just completely vapor locked my brain. I don't actually remember receiving any. Maybe like a little anatomy, physiology, and science.
It's often like an afternoon. They often split boys and girls, take you into like 2 different rooms. You'll have like a health teacher or maybe like a phys ed teacher.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to talk about something you do together in a mixed company.
Together. No, can't talk about it together. I actually write about that in the book. So, and then for me anyways, they would show a video that was often sponsored by like a tampon or pad company that would be like, we're teaching you about your body. And I assume that I don't know actually what they show 8th grade boys, but I assume it's a complimentary video that's like, here's what's going on with your body, and you might notice some things at night.
Maybe a condom sponsor?
Yeah, but that seems too progressive. I mean, with abstinence-only sex ed, you can't even discuss condoms. So I imagine that it might actually be, well, I don't know. I don't want to speculate who's sponsoring these things.
Who would sponsor?
I mean, it could actually be a religious organization that sponsors it. That would not surprise me, but I don't know. I'm not hip on current modern day sex ed. I only know what I was missing. And again, it was like an afternoon, very passable for me. The thing that sticks out the most that I remember, and I went to school in Michigan. We had a super quality educational class. They showed a 6-foot projection of a close-up of syphilitic genitals, like a vulva that was just completely covered in open sores.
Okay.
And that memory's never left my head because again, I thought like, this is not what this whole, I appreciate that there are risks involved, but this is not what this is about.
Do you think they were trying to scare?
There. Absolutely. They're trying to scare you.
Why? Like I get, so, and of course I say why, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, I remember being 16 to 18, your hormones kick in, things start to shift, but there is so much more in life than an unwanted pregnancy or an STD. And you actually can protect yourself against the vast majority of those with about that much education and willpower and intelligence. Why would it just seems as if it is shame-based? I mean, Michael, you were in high school a couple of years ago. What was your sex ed? So this is nice to be able to touch into the younger generation.
Yeah, it was actually, I remember
26.
I remember 2.
When did you turn 26? Last time I made fun of you saying you were 23, you said 25.
Yeah, November.
Did you get yourself a good birthday present for me?
When in November?
4th.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thank you, yeah.
What did I get you?
An insult, probably.
Nice. I didn't even know it was your birthday. Mostly because I don't care about you.
Yeah, I figured.
Go get yourself.
But I do care about your opinion. So what was sex ed like?
No, legitimately.
I remember 2, like clearly I can remember 2 separate times. One was in 8th grade, one was in like freshman or sophomore year. In 8th grade, they actually didn't separate boys and girls. And a lady came in and she just basically explained basically just explained sex. And then she actually, if I'm remembering correctly, she didn't even teach abstinence only. She was like, hey, this is what it is, these are the consequences. It was actually pretty neutral.
When you explain like sex, you mean like physiologically, like this is technically what means?
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah, she's like, this is technically what sex is.
Got it.
And kind of explained pros, cons, and
sounds like a riveting class.
It was actually very neutral. It's surprising for Butte, Montana, was very neutral and
that's great. Just
kind of threw it out there. And then in my high school class, it went deeper into actual anatomy. And so it was like kind of sex ed, but more like a physiology type thing.
Is that even really sex ed? I mean, what are you educating the audience with? Are you like, I would like to think education prepares you for something you might encounter later in life.
Right.
That description, what is that?
And if that were the case, I would say then communication has to be the primary thing that you teach in sex ed.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, because you can, like, the anatomy and physiology is like pretty quick. You'll figure it out. You know?
Well, you have 50% of the puzzle figured out with just yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Actually,
exactly.
Depending on how you go, you might have 100% of the anatomy and physiology figured out.
That part's like pretty simple, right? Human beings have been doing that for hundreds of thousands of years pretty successfully. That's how we all got here. So that part's not actually the tricky part, right? Giving people a heads up on like, here are some of the things that can happen. Here's how to prevent those things. Yeah. But like more importantly, I think about it from like a harm reduction model. You teach people what the actual risks are. And I don't mean like the unintended pregnancy STI risk. I mean like the emotional risks, the mental risks. Here's what it's going to, when you start having sex with someone, your neurochemicals start cooking up this soup that has you feel very strongly about them, because that's your body's evolutionary response to mating that is going to create this sort of like magnetic pull. It doesn't mean that they're a good partner for you or that that's the kind of person that you want to create a life with, but you're going to start feeling those way if you start having sex with someone. Like, you can educate people on those things. And here's how to say no in a way that like preserves someone's dignity. And here's how to say no against, aggression. And here's, and that like, there are ways that we can have a conversation about this where everyone can leave it feeling good and everyone can actually like get what they want out of it. Yeah. You ask like, why is it that we don't do that? I mean, I have a lot of theories ranging from that we just like don't know any better and we're passing on what generations before us have done.
I think we know better.
My on the other end of the spectrum, I do think that there is. I think when we keep people away from pleasure and we keep people away from being empowered in this area of their life in particular, they're actually a lot easier to control.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that may be my most conspiratorial end on why sex ed is the way that it is. And I don't know that any individual person is thinking on that level. Like, it would make them easier to manipulate if we took them away from pleasure. But I do think that when people are like empowered in their body, they know how to like relate to themselves. They have the discipline. They understand that, their sexuality is powerful and they're able to wield it as a tool of connection. Then they move through the world a lot differently. I mean, that's the world that I want to live in. Yeah. But those people are a lot happier. They're a lot more satisfied. And I don't know that like happy and satisfied people, I don't know that happy and satisfied is really like the goal for most folks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to have happy and satisfied and then things. When it all gets messed up.
Yes, right. If you're happy and you're satisfied, you buy less stuff, period.
You actually really do.
You do.
Because you're happy and satisfied with what you have.
Yes.
Happiest I've ever been in my life is when I had the least amount of stuff and responsibilities.
Absolutely. And I would say that like the happiest I've been is when I had great relationships that were very fulfilling. Yeah. And then less stuff. But, this is like why sex sells, right? Like, can you really use sex to sell a car if someone knows that sex is actually a divine act that you share with a person? Like,
somehow they figured out how to do this.
To sell.
I don't even think they're selling the car. They just use it to get your attention and then they slide the car in and hope that you buy.
Right. But and if you're sexually satisfied and happy, I don't know that works on you.
I don't think it would.
Yeah.
The better you know yourself, I think the less the outside manipulation or malleability actually occurs.
Yes. Yeah.
What, I don't really know a lot of people who went to religious schooling. Do you have any idea what they teach in sex ed? I feel like there's a little bit more of a shame aspect or abstinence or you're going to hell. And again, I want people to believe whatever they want to. I'm just curious what that experience is like.
So people who grow up, whether that's religious school or like in a highly religious or a household that like had a more strict view of a religious view of sexuality, tend to experience more shame, and they tend to actually they will self-identify as having problems with sex and sexuality more often than folks who didn't. And the best place to look at that is people who report to be addicted to porn are overwhelmingly people from a religious background, specifically men from a religious background.
Really?
Yes, because folks who didn't grow up feeling that sexuality was shameful or that maybe even porn or masturbation was bad don't tend to self-identify as being addicted to it. It is those folks because think about like how much energy there is behind doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. How much shame, that's kink, right? Like that is a definition of kink. It's just not conscious kink. It's an unconscious kink. To do something that you feel you're not supposed to be doing, and then to feel like you have a compulsion towards doing that, like you're not in control of yourself doing that. All of that is really like comes from a reading of sexuality that is based in a religious upbringing more often than not.
From somebody who works in this world, what are your thoughts on porn? Positive or negative in the overall?
So porn has a time and a place, just like anything else. I like to think of porn as a tool.
Okay.
I think porn can be an incredible tool, and I believe that people should have access to more erotic creativity. One of my jobs as a coach is just to give people ideas that break them out of the box of what they think their sex should look like. Some of those ideas come from porn. So they come to me and they go, Caitlin, I need to be able to like jackhammer my wife for 15 minutes in order for her to be satisfied. And I'm like,
have you asked her?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that that's what she needs. Where did you get that idea? So that often comes from porn. But
that's my concern with it, is an unrealistic expectation that is applied to the real world, especially when I mean, I didn't grow up with one of these devices. I,
me neither.
to this day,
Yes.
remember the first Playboy that I found. It's a formative experience in most
Yes.
young men's lives.
Yes.
What are you laughing at, Michael? Just because you had a digital
No,
version of
he was
that?
No,
different.
it's just funny.
He's just like,
No,
yeah.
it's totally different.
Yeah.
I remember the first Playboy I found under my cousin's
Yeah.
bed and being like, what is in here? My God, wow, this exists, right?
But now people way younger than me, you're probably not an accidental keystroke away from it, but your access is just...
You're this close to it at all times. Yeah. I mean, you can, on a device, you're like 3 clicks away from
and I
the
think there's
biggest
yeah.
repository of adult content ever made. You know, remember, like we didn't,
Yeah.
just the same way that we didn't evolve to have access to like corn syrup in all of our food, we did not evolve to have access to erotic visuals all of the time.
And that's what worries me. And again, I mean, if people are into porn, my thing is this. As long as it's adults and it's consensual, I don't actually give a shit what you're doing. Like if you want to wear a dive mask and hit yourself with a shit-filled pantyhose, if that's what turns your screws, as long as your partner or you're by yourself... Listen, I'm not going to judge you externally. I have thoughts, but I'll keep them to myself unless you ask. But that's an adult.
Yeah.
Somebody in formative years whose brain is informed, who has access to that. And there is a difference between finding a two-dimensional image in real life. And then, I mean, you talk about AI and what they can create too. I think that can break a young man or woman's mind. And I don't know how you unwind that later in life.
I don't know that you ever fully do. I think that the distinction there is like, does someone feel like they can have a healthy relationship with their own sexuality despite whatever they were exposed to early on? Like, and I think that's very doable for most people, but I totally agree with you. I think that porn is amazing at doing certain things. It can open our eyes to all kinds of erotic possibilities that we might not have discovered otherwise. And those don't have to be like aggressive or violent. That could be like, oh, I didn't even realize that like it turned me on to have like to have my mouth be covered because then I can't make any noise and then that part of my brain turns off and now I don't have to think while I'm having sex. Like that, great,
People are into some
amazing.
weird shit,
You could
Caitlin.
learn that. But I wouldn't even say that's weird. That's pretty run of the mill.
Well, I was thinking you meant like duct tape or a Ziploc bag with like...
No, I remember there was a moment where we had a toy. It's okay if I tell like a personal story here.
You are on the internet. You can tell whatever you want to.
Right.
Michael might pass out. I'm going to be honest.
Keep reading.
He's not that experienced.
Deep breaths. Feel your butt in the chair.
If you pass out and fall over, do you want us to revive you or just kind of let you go?
Yeah, just let me go.
He's going to be the one to revive. He's going to be the one that revives you.
Right.
Where was I going with that? Okay, so I had this...
Pineapple, Michael. That's your safe word. If it gets too far...
It would be great if like an hour from now, he's like, pineapple! I'm out! He runs out of the room.
Wouldn't be the first time.
So a former partner and I, we were having sex. I had this like little flogger. It had a plastic handle and like the little dangly threads coming
Okay,
off
I
of
think
it,
I know
right?
what
It's
you're
like a
talking-
little sensation toy, and you usually use it like this, right? Like you like smack somebody with it. And he turned the plastic handle to its side and like put it in my mouth as a bit. And my mind was blown. Not because like not because it necessarily felt like amazing, but it was more like the creativity that went into that. I was more like, oh yeah, like of course you could use that part as a bit. It didn't occur to me that that could be anything other than a handle, but of course it can, right? And like this is just a matter of like using a tool creatively. We could think about like, you know, if you're a great chef, you know how to use spices creatively, you know how to use like waffles creatively, whatever, you know, like you have more access to creativity because you've seen more stuff. You've watched a library of things and people having ideas. And I think that's really, really beneficial because people really get stuck on what sex needs to look like. And then, you know, once that creativity is gone, they get really tunnel vision on anything that's wrong, anything that's getting in the way of what they think it ought to look like. And often that can come with a lot of self-blame instead of reflection and exploration. Like, what is it that maybe I need to shift or do differently in order to have a pleasurable experience? It's like, damn it, why doesn't my body work to do the thing that I think it should be doing? On the other hand, there are some other risks associated with overusing porn. For adults, externalizing our turn on and putting all of like what gets us going outside of us. So we lose connection to our own like internal wellspring of eroticism. And eroticism is like a life force within us, right? Like it is literally life force itself in that it's how people come into the world, right? It's like through sex and sexuality. So when you reach a point where your entire relationship to your own sexuality exists outside of your body, it's going to be really hard for you to control your ejaculation, to get hard when you want to feel like you can connect to another person. Then there, especially for younger men in particular, who grew up watching porn and having access to porn on the internet, they are experiencing erectile dysfunction at higher rates than previous generations.
Really?
And it's because a real person in front of you, cannot compete with the internet, right?
This is a true story.
Where you're seeing, you could be watching 20 or 30 people have sex in one evening. You could select the exact kind of woman and experience and position that you're looking for and only serve that to yourself. Or it could be 15 at the same time, right? So real person doesn't really compare. And also real person, a lot more complicated, so much more nuance going on. Watching porn, very straightforward. You're not part of the action. Like I like to think about it like, watching like reaction videos or watching like other people do stuff on the internet. Like some people are really into like watching folks.
Oh, there's whole channels created around that.
There's so much.
They
right?
create content by reacting to other people's content.
Right? Or like they I remember being shocked that there was a channels where like kids opened toys. And other children enjoyed
the ones
watching
with hundreds
them
of millions
hold
of views.
Toys. Yeah, I was just, for me anyways, maybe this is like giving me away as an elder millennial. I was just sort of like, I don't really understand what we're doing here. Like, what is the joy in doing that? But there is something that's very safe and very sanitary about watching someone else do something, whereas like having sex with another person is very, very vulnerable. It's raw, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's very physical. It is like happening right now. It is a sensory experience. Whereas watching 2 people or 5 people have sex on a screen is like it's a very separated from your experience, very disassociated experience.
What do you find it looks like when they externalize to that point on the extreme end? Are they just kind of detached from that sexuality and unable to even be interested absent that external stimulus via specifically the porn?
That can happen, or their performance anxiety becomes so extreme that it actually manifests in their body, and then they end up coming to me. So those are the men who come to work with me. Primarily, they have premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, or delayed ejaculation, or they feel like they have no connection in their relationship, or they lack the confidence to go and look for a relationship. Like they come to me because sex was part of their breakup or part of their divorce, and they want to make sure that like that part of their life feels secure before they go out and looking for another partner. The role that porn plays in that is that it sets the expectations so high that they no longer have a grasp of what their own sexuality looks like. Or they, for men who have been trying to get to orgasm as quickly as possible, and they're watching porn, so they're externalizing their turn on, and then they're also rushing their body through it. And bodies are really good at patterns, right? They're like really, really good at getting from point A to point B over and over and over again and figuring out the shortest way to get there. And by the way, anything that has to do with mating or passing on your genetic material, your body is extra incentivized to develop patterns that allow you to get there faster and more efficiently. And so the consequence of porn is often that you have this unrealistic expectation for yourself. You've often trained your body. And then on the other hand, so there's the premature ejaculation guys who are going fast, but then there's another category of guys who watches porn for an extended period of time, like 2 to 4 hours, maybe even every single day.
Do these people not have jobs?
Or
are they the pop-up window dude at work and the boss comes and like, just doing an Excel spreadsheet?
I think a guy asked me this one time live, and I was like, wait, let's just do some math together. Because if you're doing this 2 hours a day.
That's 20 hours a week, a work week, if that's 4 hours a day.
That is a incredible amount of time to dedicate to anything.
And on the weekends, they're going well past 4 hours a day.
And so what they're doing is they're not letting themselves reach ejaculation. They're edging. They're getting close to the orgasm
Michael
and not going over the edge.
He taught me that term.
Also gooning.
Gooning.
Oh, I heard that one recently. What does that one mean, though?
It's basically what you described of like hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like onomatopoeia. You goon.
Yeah.
What the hell, people?
But again, and it's sort of like our bodies were not evolved to do this, right?
Yeah.
So this is like when I have like what's an actual example? When I have like chocolate covered cherries at my house, my body did not evolve to like walk by those and say no to them, right? I'm just gonna finish the bag. That's how that is. So I don't buy them because I know that I would be putting like the 2 hour. I just can't like bring it into the house. So for some folks, they have like a compulsion towards doing this. I also think it takes the place of having a romantic or intimate relationship a lot of the time, and they kind of tell themselves like this is, maybe they're not even conscious enough to tell themselves, but they're like, this is some form of a replacement for the kind of relationship that I would like to have but don't feel like I could have, and therefore
maybe
this is
sexually, but there's so much more to a relationship than just that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so anyways, those guys end up often with delayed ejaculation, meaning that they cannot reach orgasm when they're with a partner. And again, it's like, it's just, this is what you are training your body to do over and over and over again. It is just running the pattern that you have been giving it. But people think that because porn is distinct from, partnered sex, that their body will somehow behave differently. But the lizard part of your brain, which is the part that really controls the majority of your sexuality, it doesn't know the difference. Lizards can't. They don't have imaginations. They can't project into the future or in the past. They don't know that that's a screen, right? So that part of your brain does not know that what's happening on the screen is distinct from what's actually happening in your physical life. It cannot know the difference.
That's when you become the edgelord, which is a term that my daughter taught me. Which
once
I looked it up and I said, hey, you can feel free to not share your entire vernacular with me.
I thought edgelords were people on the internet that just said stuff to drum up conflict.
That's what I think. That's the last time I've heard that term used, but let's...
I think, remember, this came from Julia.
Yeah, she's younger than all of us.
Yeah, she's younger than all of us. She's the one who had gooning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she knew that one.
Yeah, I mean, the language is changing.
Someone who deliberately tries to be shocking, dark, provocative, or offensive, especially online.
Okay,
whatever,
so
that's
is there an
your
edging
truth.
Lord?
That's your truth.
Yeah, edging lord might be. Yeah.
My truth is the edging lord.
Damn it. I can't keep up with the vernacular.
No, I mean, on one hand, it's great that we can decide that we have a shared language to describe things.
I guess.
But it is happening so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, generational differences are.
So I've heard 80-20 or 90-10 porn consumption man-woman. Why do you think that is?
I actually think that is only true in older generations.
Really?
Younger generations, a lot more women, like almost parity, almost 50-50.
50-50.
And it's actually different in different parts of the world. So I remember seeing, oh God, what is the big, this is how much porn I don't watch. What's the big porn site?
OnlyFans?
No, orange
Pornhub.
Pornhub. Thank you. Pornhub does an incredible end of the year review where they share the analytics that they've collected over the year. No, it's incredible.
I bet it is.
You should pull it up. And I think one year was like
pull that shit up, Michael.
There was one country, I want to say it was the Philippines, where women actually watched more porn than men in the country. So I think it's younger. I think younger generations. So I live with a woman who's 10 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. And even just in that time, like smartphones happened when she was in high school. That didn't happen for me. I had a BlackBerry at one point.
I had one for a couple years.
Yeah, I had a BlackBerry. When I was in college, there was no such. We didn't get images like easily on our phones.
What did you find, Michael? You said
it's probably a 30-page report.
Because it's Montana, it's blocked.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, Pornhub's
does it want
blocked in Montana.
Does it want you to put in an ID? Is it age gated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
going to find it somewhere else.
Upload your ID.
Oh,
use your VPN.
Yeah.
Do you not have a VPN?
We would never skirt around
I'm sure that
laws,
I do, but
I'm sure the Australian social media ban is doing great. Actually, we were just talking about that on the last episode. We pulled it up. They're doing age verification and IDs, which actually is going to help shut, even on a VPN, if you still have to show your ID with the selfie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So this is for social media?
Social media in
porn?
Australia.
This is for porn. It's just like a very basic breakdown.
Top 20 countries,
this
U.S.
Is this
we
25?
are, again...
I believe this is 25.
It is. It's
Look at
25
this.
at the
We
top.
are a beacon to the rest of the world.
We are number one.
We are the champions. Jesus.
Top 20 countries. Okay, so look at it. It follows the 20-80 rule. 20% of countries are responsible for about 80% of traffic.
Yep, there you go.
That's great. Or 20 countries. Okay, keep
Netherlands
going.
making the top 20.
Let's get to the other stuff. Okay, so most searched terms. Hentai was the most searched term, followed by MILF.
I know the MILF one.
None of these terms change positions. Okay, so same as 2024.
SFW content.
MILFs. I love that. Do you want to know something cool about MILFs that I learned recently from a guest on the Holly Randall podcast? So before the proliferation of OnlyFans, where content creators were selling directly to consumers, you had porn studios that were making the majority of the adult content, right? And it was the prevailing belief in porn studios that people wanted like young virginal women. They wanted 18 years old, 20 years old. And so the majority of porn that came out while studios were in charge really preferred very young women. And by the time you were like in your late 20s, you pretty much had to retire as an adult star. OnlyFans comes around, and now you have this like democratization of content, right? Where people are like literally giving money directly to the creator. They're voting with their dollars for who they want. Suddenly MILF is the number one term. So they actually, which is awesome, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
that like men and consumers of porn were not like really necessarily desirous of like barely legal women across the
No,
board.
they were looking at the soccer mom
They
getting out of the
want
Honda
milfs.
Odyssey.
Yeah, and I hear all the time, like they want a woman who's sexually mature. She knows what she wants. They want a woman who actually experiences pleasure, knows like how to ask for things, how to communicate about sex. Like people, when they're choosing who they want to like engage with sexually, they want a competent partner. I think that's cool. I think that's like that made me feel really, really good about the world. Okay, let's see here. Oh, okay. Role play fantasies increased in 2025, including driver,
Rose
plumber,
by 98%.
and driver, plumber, and chef.
So they're looking
Interesting.
for creative blue collar jobs.
Yeah. Driver.
Cheating and affair videos were of interest this year. That's not great.
Cheating grew 94% and cuckold grew 73%.
To be honest, Michael might be 40% of that
40% of all those
73.
searches.
Notice he's in a chair right now watching us.
He is. I can't see any of his screens from here.
All you can see is his mustache.
You know what? There could be correlation to just like if the term cuckold made it into a couple major media outlets and people had never heard that
It
term before, and
100%
then they
did.
start looking for it. Yeah. So that could be more reflective of just mainstream coverage of these
Oh,
issues.
Coldplay kiss cam fiasco.
Oh, there we go. Yes,
They think it might have
there we
contributed
go.
to the Office Affairs
A
searches.
388% increase for the term CEO. All right. Well, yeah, see, like sex is so reflective of the world that we live in and just like whatever is in the
Wow.
cultural conversation.
What's number 5 there? What is a femboy? Is that just an effeminate
Boy.
male?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe so. And then safe for work content increasing. Safe for work ASMR is up 56%. Meanwhile, the podcast category, I think that means actual podcasts. I don't think that
Michael,
means
what are
like
you doing in this studio?
podcast.
You know how you've been
Michael,
gone
it's
the
a
last
big
couple
table.
weeks?
It seems
Yeah.
pretty sturdy.
okay.
I thought we
cleaned
were
it.
staining the table after I got back, and it's like,
There's like a cool waterproof blanket under here. Yeah.
Michael, why have you not clicked on this? You can peruse the year in review.
Well,
There you
it's
go,
going
the
to take us
full year
to
review.
Well, click yes. You're
Pornhub. See,
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is interesting too. Well,
verify your age. Click yes.
as you know, you're elected
boy.
officials in Montana. So you need to have an account. So go sign into your account.
right?
Yes, don't pretend.
Go ahead and sign
You
into
don't
your
have to
account.
pretend.
I know
Your
this is your
account.
work computer,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way we can.
There's not. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
model. Oh, okay. I didn't actually read it. Contact your. So this is one of the ways in which
age
adult
verification.
companies are responding to the AV laws is by just taking their content down. So like, I know you can't access some browsers and some other major porn sites in at least Florida. I wasn't sure about Montana. And so you talked a little bit about like the risk of people who are underage getting exposure to porn early
Yeah.
on in life. Like that is obviously something that we need to solve for,
Yeah.
right? But we need to solve for it in a way that preserves consenting adults' abilities to access
Yeah.
those things. And right now, because of the shame-based culture that we live in, we have a pretty high number of people who don't want to be associated with a porn site, right? Like I understand, I don't want to upload my ID for I don't want to upload my ID for anything.
Agreed.
Right? When they're like verifying your bank account, no, like why do you need my pic? And you need me
Yeah.
to turn left and right? Like that feels like a huge violation. So I understand why someone would not want to do that in order to access adult content. And at the same time, folks like me who do not make adult content that is meant for sexual gratification, but do make content that is sexual in nature for educational purposes, are also not sure where we're going to shake out in this law. So, I hope
Interesting.
that my content can be accessible to folks who are over the age of 18, and we're clear about age gating folks and telling them that it is only for people over the
Yeah.
age of 18. But that said, 99% of everything that I have ever made is like appropriate for anyone who's having sex.
Yeah.
I only want 18 and over to reach it, but it is also not like meant to cause people to experience like arousal and
Yeah.
to be gratified in that way.
No, you're an educator.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for that, who is targeting the under 18 crowd? Because most people are probably either at that point of being sexually active plus or minus a couple years from
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
at some point you would want to target the most, I'll use high risk.
Yes. Yeah. We want to get people early on in life before they develop bad habits, really. I mean, and when they're really impressionable. One of the things that I actually write about in the book is the outsized effect that early sexual experiences have on us. Like your first few times, first relationship have a way bigger impact on the rest of your sex life than any other partner you're going to have. And if you're conscious of that and you're aware of that, you can choose wisely, or you can do the work to sort of like unravel the impact of that, especially if it had some like negative impacts.
Yeah.
But for folks who have like an early, healthy, emotionally stable relationship in which they're exploring sex and sexuality, that's a beautiful foundation to build the rest of your life from. But for those folks who weren't so fortunate, they have more undoing to do later on in life. So yeah, we do want to reach them.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be the most vulnerable population.
Yeah, and there are people doing some incredible work on educating folks who are under the age of 18, and there are all kinds of excellent resources that are age appropriate.
Okay.
Because, it's not, we talk about like the talk or the birds and the bees, but it's not a single conversation, right?
I never even got that from my parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I insisted on it because I was like, I
demanded
was like
that
this
your
when I was
parents sit
younger.
you down?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It went great actually, because I demanded it because I was already hearing it from other people. So people's older siblings, my friends in middle school,
100%.
They were sharing details, and so I went to my mom and I said, we need to talk, and I need you to confirm that this is true or not. And she was like, she heard out everything that I had heard and said, like, that's true and that's not really true and that shouldn't be true for people your age. And, if you have any additional questions, I think she was shocked at how early that came up for me. I think she was hoping that it had not yet. Yeah. And it was actually way late. It would have been nicer to have that conversation with her instead of like piecemealing it together.
Yeah. So how did you go from 16 and knowing you wanted to work in this field to where you are now? I mean, your YouTube channel has almost 1 million subscribers. It's very clear that people are searching for this type of content. Many of the videos are multiples of millions of views. I mean, and again, people can pretend that sexuality isn't a part of their life. I mean, those people are called liars, except for, I guess, I'm sure there's people out there where it's legitimately not. I mean, I think they're probably a fractional percentage, but.
I mean, I think it affects all of us, whether we're interested in it or not. We live in a culture that has a lot of sexual messaging and advertising and all that. So I did not discover that I wanted to work directly with people right away. I decided to do sex ed. And so I was like working with groups and young people in the evening. But then I went and got a degree in conflict studies, actually, and in like art history. And I have a minor in Japanese. And I got to do this like very nice like liberal arts school. And my thesis then was on sexual health as a human right in international law. Like all of the things that had been codfied to that point that were like designed to protect sexual sovereignty and autonomy and just like the like lovely international things that lacked any teeth and any sort of like actual I don't know. I don't want to say they lacked impact, but that's what I was interested in studying at that time. They may well have
lacked impact.
Yeah, they did. I think across the board, but that was a while ago. So anyways, I left that and I decided to go get a master's in public health because I knew that I could go and study sexuality at that level, at a population level. Mm-hmm. And I was living in Indiana at the time. So Indiana University was the home of the Kinsey Institute. It's a fantastic institution for studying sexuality. So I went there. I got a master's in public health. I got invited to follow my advisor there to the University of Texas School of Public Health to work on my doctorate. And I was in my doctoral program and so miserable. I did not like being in the ivory tower. I did not like the feeling of like we're going to just continue to publish and publish and publish and other academics and researchers are going to read it. I had this feeling of like, what about the people who need this? Right? What about the folks who are like suffering right now today? And a little bit of information could change the rest of their life. I mean, it could keep their marriage together. It could have them, seek the kind of support that they need. It could have them have a conversation that would change the course of their entire sexuality. Like that's what I was living for. So I was always teaching at night and holding groups. And eventually I realized that I did not want to continue to pursue an academic path because I was good at it and I was going to keep going at it, right? Like I was going to end up being a tenure track professor and I was just never going to get out of the ivory tower. Yeah. So I left that and a friend kind of gave me the word coaching. I was out for lunch and I said, I just want to help people. Like I just want to help people enjoy what I believe is a birthright. And she was like, oh, that kind of sounds like a coach. So I started wearing that moniker. And as soon as I started identifying to people like, oh, I'm a sex coach, people would just like waterfall me with all kinds of information. Like I didn't need to ask any follow-up questions. They would be like, oh my God, it started when I was 14 in the babysitter. And let me tell you. And I'd have to be like, look, I'm not your sex coach. Like we haven't.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. So, but I knew that I was onto something. And that's been me my whole life. I was the girl that when my friends had to take a pregnancy test at the Burger King bathroom, like I was in the stall, right? I was one of my friends called me and told me he put icy hot on his balls when I was in high school.
Classic mistake.
Called me and was like, what should I do? And by the way, that guy's dad was a doctor. I was like, I'm not qualified
Yeah, you don't
to answer
share that
this
with your
question.
parents.
Well,
No, you wait it out.
What was,
you wait it out.
He called me on my parents' landline at 10 p.m. to be like, my dick's on fire, wash it off. I have no further information for you. God, what life was like before we had the internet that we do today.
Michael, just out of curiosity, if you were to Google what should you do if you put icy hot on your balls, what does it come up with? I think
I'm going to say something like wash with a Castile soap would be my guess.
Something,
now.
and then give it
20 years later,
and give it some time.
Yeah. I've had some time to think about it, and it turns out
it's going to suck for a bit, regardless of what you do.
Breathe. Breathe.
If icy hot is applied to the testicles, immediately rinse the area with large amounts of cool water to remove the chemical, as it can cause severe burns, blistering, and intense irritation.
Can icy hot? I guess if you're allergic to it, you could
apparently.
have a severe reaction to icy hot.
Yeah.
20 years too late. Google.
Wow.
Anyway,
there you go. That's the pearl of wisdom for the listeners for today.
That's what you're getting out of this episode. Goodbye.
Inquiring minds might want to. We might have saved somebody a Google.
We could have. Milks are still number one, and cold water.
So how'd you get your first client?
I was just posting on Facebook, actually.
Facebook.
I went on Facebook, I went on Reddit, I was like, hey, I'm in Chicago, I am a sex coach. I was charging $25 an hour because I felt like I could just give someone $25 back. Like, if they were like, you didn't do a good job, good, have your money back. The coaching industry is unregulated, so there wasn't I didn't have a need to go get a certification. I had already been teaching this stuff and learning about it since I was 16 years old. I used to have my dad drop me off at Barnes & Noble, and I would read the science sex books, not the erotic fiction ones, like the anatomy and physiology of sexuality and women's anatomy of arousal. Like I had been studying that stuff for a decade at that point.
Wow.
And so I just realized that the quickest way to helping people was just to offer my time in exchange for money. Like that's it. I'm a coach. You can have your money back if I fail you. And
how quickly did you get your first inquiry?
It's still like, I don't even remember who it was. Actually, I do. There was a client early on that changed how we ended up here in particular, because at first I was working with anybody. I worked with women, I worked with couples, I worked with men, like gay men. It didn't matter. You got sex problems, I'll help you solve them. And then I worked with a young rideshare driver. And he came to me because he was dealing with premature ejaculation. And he also, because of that, was completely lacking in confidence, just felt like his self-esteem was low. He didn't know how to date or approach women. And so we worked together for several months. And then I couldn't get him to schedule our last session. He was kind of dodging me. And at first I felt like, oh my God, maybe his PE came back. I failed him. He doesn't want to talk to me anymore. I don't know. And then sure enough, he called me. He's like, can we have the last session in person? And mind you, I wasn't on the internet really at the time. I was just doing everything locally. And he goes, I want to meet you at a park. And I was like, oh my God, he wants my kidneys. All right. But
I'll be the guy with the ski mask.
Totally. Yeah. So I was like, a public park. Fine. All right. And sure enough, I get to the park and I see him trudging through the park with a giant cooler over his shoulder. And I was like, that's what he's going to put my kidneys in, right? And he sets it down in front of me and opens it up. And it's full of cut up frozen watermelon. And he's like, I brought this for you. It's just something to say thank you. I figured we could sit. It's not laced
with anything.
Yeah. He's like, I figured we could just sit in the park in the summer and eat some watermelon together. And then I cannot make this up, reaches into his pocket and hands me the stickiest, gooeyest wad of cash that I could imagine. Watermelon juice on it and everything. And he's like,
I'm sure it was watermelon juice.
And this is the tip. This is a tip for you because you changed my life. He's like, literally, he gave me his rideshare driver tips because he felt like what we had done together had changed his life so significantly that he wanted to go out of his way in that way to thank me. Yeah. And that was a huge eye-opening moment for me because I realized that this thing that I had not intended to set out to do, which help a guy overcome performance anxiety and help him to figure out how to last longer in bed, had changed his world in such a significant way that that like I needed to pay attention to that. I really believe in like answering the call that's being presented to you.
Yeah.
And I had a couple other really intense experiences like that where I was able to help someone. It was easy for me. It was fun for me. I enjoyed helping these guys like figure out what was going on for them. And then they expressed to me the level of transformation that had allowed them throughout their entire life. Helped them to heal a relationship with their parents. Helped them to ask for a raise or leave a job with a boss that was abusive towards them.
And these are sex-related issues that cascaded well beyond outside of that particular zone, if you will.
The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
It's very Musashi of you. What is it? Once you know the way broadly, you can apply it to everything. Or I just completely
I love that
quote.
Yeah. Same but different, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you are kind of like stuck up, or you feel like you have to do things just the right way in order to be worthy, or you feel like not enough in one area of your life, chances are that does spill over into the majority of other areas in your life. And if you are always rushing to get something done, or feeling like you can't perform up to the expectations that you have, and you're not allowed to actually like ever speak about that aloud, or you have a great deal of shame, like all of that. I like to think about sex as sort of one on-ramp to self-inquiry or self-reflection or personal development. And there are other on-ramps. You can explore your relationship with money. You can explore your relationship with your parents. You can explore your relationship with like your physical body and exercise. All of those are perfectly valid on-ramps. They all kind of lead towards the same thing, right? Which is developing, I think anyways, a relationship to yourself, of knowing yourself, of having some degree of practice, of discipline, of like you develop as a person.
Yeah.
They're all on-ramps to the same place. And I like to think that if you choose the on-ramp of sex, that we're starting at a particularly deep point in the person. Right?
Yeah.
We're going to like a very deep, vulnerable core piece of you as an individual. And so if we work on that, it is naturally going to start to unfold as sort of like, if you unravel this one knot that's sort of like very deeply at the center of all the other knots, you're going to loosen up everything.
Yeah, I find those knots can be, regardless of what it is, if there's an area in your life that you are struggling with or it is consuming your attention, this is just me speaking for myself, it's like a black hole. It has gravity that pulls. It doesn't pull things into a different dimension. It just pulls everything closer to that knot, and it all starts getting intertwined. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's true, especially for like things that feel like addictions or absolutely.
So how long working with men and women and couples until you started seeing patterns?
So I'm a researcher, right? So I came from the ivory tower. I came from, I had 24-hour access to a chlamydia lab. I used to drive
That's
samples.
a really weird sentence. But
I
okay.
know. It's one of the weirdest things. I used to receive urine samples in the mail. I had such an interesting job. And it was my job, by the way, to like reach out to and find these people and convince them to join our study and to get tested and to, pee into a cup and mail it to me in downtown Indianapolis, that I would drive it over to the lab before they defrosted, by the way. It was what a time that was. So I went from like having this like very, very intense background in scientific rigor to being in the Wild West of coaching and just taking on clients who, had no real relationship to each other, but I was sort of using them as controls against each other to test different things. So I also was fortunate in that, like, in my formal education, I had not been exposed to, and it's partially because there isn't, a lot of research or literature that was specific to premature ejaculation or performance anxiety. So I was going in and able to actually like develop a theory from pretty much nothing. It was like doing grounded research because I didn't have exposure to that. And when I did look into the scientific researches, it was very limited at the time. This is 10 years ago. It's still very limited. It's not a subject that gets a lot of funding. There's not a lot of money to be made off of premature ejaculation in particular. They do prescribe SSRIs off-label to treat premature ejaculation, but that's not the major source of income for anyone developing and selling SSRIs.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of money to be made in it. So there's not a lot of research going into it. So I instead would, speak to client A and then tell him to try test A. and then speak to client B and have him try B and C and have him, and then switch it up and then see what client B did with C's protocol. And I would just keep notes across all of them. And eventually I would see that there are certain patterns that really developed. The biggest pattern is like across the board, this is true for all performance anxiety, is I think tension. That's the word that I use to describe it. And that is physical tension, especially like tightness in the pelvic floor, tightness throughout the hips. A lot of people are carrying around
like literally clenching, for lack of a better word, or just being okay.
Because think about it, when you feel a certain degree of like pressure to perform, that often does manifest in the body as like a holding. Right? Like I got to roll my shoulders back. Maybe I stop breathing very deeply.
Okay.
Maybe not, you have specialized training in like how maybe not to do that.
I just accept moderate and mediocre performance in all aspects of my life. So I let go and just like, fuck it. It's going to be what it is.
And let go is exactly it, right? Yeah. That is releasing tension. Totally.
Like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this, but like, I'm probably not. So fuck it. Let's go.
Right. Well, find out. Right. Yeah, it's exactly. But if you're coming into something going like, I have to do this and I have to do this.
I know what you're talking about.
And the future of my relationship depends on it, and whether or not she stays with me or whether or not I'm a man depends on this, right? Especially if you're, they say that like it's money, muscles, and mojo is what makes a man feel like a man often.
The triple M.
And if you feel like you don't have access to, a like solid core in any of those, or if you feel like you're, maybe like you don't have a lucrative job, or you don't feel like you're traditionally attractive or tall or handsome, like there are a lot of ways in which sex comes to mean a whole lot more than just connection and pleasure for people.
Yeah,
right?
I bet.
So you come into sex with all of that baggage, right? And then you're holding tension in your physical body often, and people literally hold tension to reach orgasm, right? So you're coming in with a bunch of tension already. You're putting yourself up to having an orgasm a lot faster. But there's also quite a bit of tension that occurs in your mind and in sort of like your heart and in your emotions as well. If you feel like you can't maybe speak these things out loud because you can never let your partner know that you're feeling fear or you're feeling insecure, all of this kind of adds up to someone who's not actually capable of being present and just doing the dance,
Which probably makes it even worse, especially if they have historical failure in that. Like
exactly.
That sounds like you're on a water slide to hell.
Totally. Yeah. And each time it gets worse, because each time you have that experience, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to use ED for example. Like, okay, so I lost my erection the last time that I had sex with this person. Oh my God, if it happens again, what if it happens again? I can't like stand the thought of it happening again. Now you're
Way to stay in the moment, buddy.
Totally right. Like, what chance does your body have of performing when you're like, like you're watching yourself from outside of yourself. What prayer do you have of being present, right? And this is why I say that like the things that I have noticed that are true across the entire spectrum, this is true for men, this is true for women, are the same things that allow us to be present and to like slow down enough to relate to another person and relate to ourselves, going back to porn, and porn allowing us to put all of our attention outside of ourselves. In order to have sex with another person and have it be really fulfilling, you have to be willing to put your attention inside of yourself, tracking your own body, your own thoughts, etc., and tracking their body at the same time. It takes practice to develop that sort of skill. And if you're overly tracking yourself, or if you're overly tracking the other person, then you're not remaining balanced. You're not like centered enough to like really be present in the experience. That
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Other than tension, what else do you see causing, maybe in couples? There's got to be, I think one of the human conditions is thinking we're incredibly unique. And I've come to the realization that we're pretty much like 98% the same. And we all have kind of the same thoughts, and we're capable of negative self-talk. We're getting stuck somewhere else. So I feel like there's probably patterns in couples that you see as well. And I would imagine, this is a hypothesis, a lot of it stems from communication as well.
I would argue that pretty much all of it stems from communication and can also be cleaned up, at least in part, through communication. A lot of people jump straight to tactics and skills, and they want to like teach me how to touch her in such a way that like she melts or she has an orgasm or whatever. The skills and the techniques they're simple actually. And honestly, I can't tell you exactly what's going to work for your partner. The best thing I can do is teach you a system that will help you to assess and work with her to figure out what works for her on any given moment. All of the things that have to come prior to that are related to your ability to communicate about your intimacy.
And is that where the issue comes, the lack thereof?
So I think that my sort of central theory is that we all evolved to have sex successfully, right? Again, this is literally how we all
You and
got
I wouldn't
here.
be sitting here if that weren't the case.
Exactly. 400,000 years of uninterrupted sexual reproduction. And only like recently IVF and options that don't involve sexual reproduction. Really 99.9% of all
Yeah.
humans. Anything that is stopping us from having a sex life that is at least satisfying is something that is actually like gumming up the works that we are born with. It is something that is coming from outside of us or internally, in the sense that it's like a thought or an emotion or a pattern that's coming from inside of us or inside of the relationship. But it's really, I like to think about it as like it's all blockages. This is meant to flow. Like you are born essentially with a system where the flow is unobstructed. And then the things that we pick up along the way, the things that our partners say to us, digs, the pain that we experience, heartbreak, shame messages from our schools and our peers and our parents, like all of these things start to plug up the flow. And the cool thing about what you can do as a couple, if you're willing to do it, and you have to have two people that are willing to do it, is you can sort of highlight for each other where those blockages are. And sometimes the blockages are too intense for you to just work together and you need to bring in a third person or a professional. But the cool thing is that what I have found in the couples that I've worked with is if there is a will, there is a way. You can find a place where both people can experience what it is that they want, sexually and beyond. But you have to be willing to put in that work. And a lot of that work is communication. A lot of that work is in, it's in the nature of communication.
Do you find that maybe the issue begins because they don't know how to start the communication or have the conversation? Because, sex or sexuality, if you're with a partner or with somebody for a long time, I would hope that it could be easier, but I think sometimes it could actually even be harder because you could be more ingrained in your own personal BS or your habit or routine or whatever that is. It's not the easiest conversations to have, right? There could be a level of embarrassment or fragility, or you feel like you're a little bit too vulnerable. Like, I get that. But are you just seeing people that are not willing to have the conversation, or they just don't know how to start it?
It's definitely both.
Yeah.
We don't have great models for communication, right? And when I talk to clients, sometimes they have a level of resistance around even developing and like adhering to those models of communication because it can feel a little forced, a little too structural. Maybe even like I've heard a client say like, this is too corporate in nature. I don't want to do that. But the truth is that models and structures allow us to have great results. And we know that from running a company. We know that, right? Like when we have a repeatable system, when we have a breakdown at my company, I know exactly how we're going to repair it. I know exactly what we're going to do in the next meeting. We're going to spend time on that one thing. We're going to use the system that we have put in place, and that allows everything to run really smoothly. But for some reason, we're like, that takes the romance out of relationships.
No, the nightmare in business is if you don't have a system and you're winging it every single day.
And the same is true for a relationship. So I think that yes, these conversations are difficult to have. Sometimes we're totally unpracticed at having them. Sometimes we've just never done it before. And so our lizard brain is like, this is for sure going to kill me. I'm definitely going to die, right? Skydiving, for example, right? Like the first time, every part of your brain, I've not done it, but I'm assuming, has to be going like, I'm going to die. And then you land and then you're like, oh, I didn't die. I can do that again, right? And then the I'm going to die part has to quiet down a little bit over time. Same is true for having conversations about sex.
I never had the I was going to die. I think the resounding narrative in my head was, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot. Why are you an
idiot? Because you might die.
Yeah. Actually, though, it quiets once you leave the aircraft the first time. And then I actually think you need a little bit of the I'm going to die always. If that totally goes out, you're not paying attention to the risk.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In that particular genre, testing gravity is not a low risk activity.
Right. And it shouldn't be. We should never, and the same is true with relating, right?
Yeah.
I think that for the most part, our parents probably didn't show us how to have those conversations. If they had them, if they did a good job with that, they didn't do it in front of us. And maybe they did demonstrate that with us, but maybe we haven't seen other elder couples in our lives demonstrate that. So we just don't even know that it's possible. So, for example, my partner and I, when we need to have a conversation, like we need to have a relationship level, we've had like some kind of breakdown where we're like circling a conflict, we don't see it eye to eye on something important.
You ignore it.
We bury it and we move on
with a steamroller because it'll never come up. We
usually buy a flight somewhere and we put on our
tell me more about this.
This and we get out of there. Yeah. And then we just wait.
Yeah, and then we never argue about the same thing again on a merry-go-round.
And then the range of things that we can talk about gets slower and slower and smaller and smaller and smaller. And pretty soon it's just like, what do you want for dinner? And where are we getting ice cream? Yeah. Like all healthy couples, obviously.
Totally.
I'm a professional. That is why I do it that way.
The goal of every relationship to get to a point where you actually do not talk and don't feel comfortable in your own home. That is the apex of...
I wish that for everyone.
It's when it's the chef's kiss. It's when you've arrived. It's the top of the mountain.
Yeah. When you have to hide each other's.
You just exist and get a
hide
house.
Your browser history.
Yeah, get a house with 2 wings.
Yes. 2 checking accounts. Totally. Never talk about it. No transparency.
Perfection.
So what we do is we've named that there's a beautiful garden that we go to and we have conversations. We schedule them and we do them in the garden. We start them before dusk, usually around like 2 p.m. if we can do it.
Okay, so you're giving yourself a couple hours.
We give us multiple hours of daylight, but not too much time because we actually need for the garden closes at 5. So like I know we have from 2 to 5 to have this conversation, which actually is very important because I need to know that it's going to end at one point, right? And we don't have endless capacity to hold emotional space and keep track of all the things that we've discussed. And I said to a client recently, take notes. He said, well, I keep having these deep conversations with my partner at like 9 p.m. at night. And then I don't remember all the things that we discussed the next day, but it was really important stuff. Well, then take notes. Okay. Why would you treat your work as if it is so important that you're willing to write things down, but you wouldn't treat your primary romantic relationship that's going to have a way larger influence on the course of your life and maybe that you'll stay with longer than any job you'll ever have, but you won't treat it with the same level of like respect and dignity to just like write some things down. And if you don't want to write some things down, ask if it's cool to record it. Have a conversation and have it recorded. And then throughout the conversation, go back and say, hey, let's just summarize what we've discussed so far. I want to make sure that I'm understanding. Let me rephrase what I just heard to you so that I know that I got it. Really basic communication tools that work outside of romantic relationships that make a huge difference and make it a lot safer. Yeah. If we know, okay, we got to have a conversation about the sex life, we're going to do it during a time where we have space before to like take care of ourselves. I'm not gonna be rushed. I'm gonna get a shower and a lunch.
Prepare your insults and arguments.
Right.
I'm gonna open with this, and then they're probably gonna say this, and then I'm coming right over the top.
Oh, you have no idea. That you're I am that person. I am. In fact, I spend that hour unwinding all of the insults. I say them to myself so that I'm not gonna say them. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's tough to go into those conversations with your guard actually down.
Yes.
I mean, everybody goes into every situation, whether they realize it or not, with their combined life experiences. And they're not all the same and they're not all great. And especially if you've been hurt or burned, it's tough to go into those things without having like a little bit of a force field up.
Oh my gosh. And not wanting to like defend ourselves, right? Like I desire to defend myself 100% of the time. I did what I did for a reason. Yeah. Right?
And sometimes, though, I think the danger in that is the person isn't attacking you. They're seeking clarity, but you take it as an attack.
Exactly. And we're not giving them grace. When we are defending ourselves, we are jumping beyond the part where we can be curious and understand what it was that they meant by that, and straight to, but like, you don't get it, and don't tell me how I think. And like, I am not coming to you as someone who is so evolved that they don't do those things, right? Yeah. Like the reason that I had to learn all of these systems is because I have a wicked tongue. My ex-husband said to me at one point, "You've said things to me that I can never unhear." Because
that's true of everything you've ever heard, dipshit. You know, like...
Oh, I hope my ex-husband gets to see you calling him a dipshit. That would be delightful.
I don't know him personally, but that's like... I've just seen things that I can't unsee. I'm like, yeah, that's how vision works.
That is true.
If your eyes were open and you saw it, you might be able to get past it. But yeah, I can't get into a time machine and put my hands in front of your eyes.
So your work is to actually be able to forgive or move on. And that's why we're divorced, because we reached a level where we couldn't continue to forgive.
How long were you guys married?
Married for 5 years, together for 9.
19 years and 11 months.
That you were married?
Mm-hmm. Together for 2 years before that.
And divorced?
Mm-hmm. Remarried now.
Yeah. I knew you were married. Now, how long have you been married now?
Just over 3 years. Yeah. I learned, and I don't execute it perfectly or even well. I would leave that up to my wife's choice, even though she'd probably be wrong in how she described my excellence in communication.
And I have many reasons as to why.
Do you want to go alphabetically or historically? No, communication... we were both very young when we got married. And I'm not saying that people can't get married when they're young. I would put a little bit of caution into that. Like, yes. 22 years. I don't even remember who I was when I was 22. And I look back now, I'm like, God, I wish I could choke myself and just wring my own neck for a little bit. However, out of that came 3 beautiful kids. So I actually would go through all of that again, even with the same outcome, because they are amazing in their own ways. But I couldn't, my wife is amazing, but I am trying to take the lessons learned from my previous relationship and own my part of it as well, because it certainly was a 2-person dance. It wasn't just one person. And so it's not like I spend a lot of time thinking about my ex. I try to spend time thinking about and identifying where it went wrong and what I could have gone better. And the communication, I think, was a large aspect of that, but it was lack of communication, or it was really, I think, a little bit of a gap that got filled with some resentment. Damn, I don't know if there's anything more insidious than that, because it breaks down communication even more. And then you start making assumptions about behavior, and you tell yourself this story in your head. And I personally, I never went past high school, but I feel like I have an honorary doctorate in negative self-talk, given from my own university that I created about negative self-talk. I could teach people if they want a course. Usually starts in the morning when I turn the lights on. What's up, you piece of shit?
Yeah, well, a lot of successful people do, right?
It's, there's actually a healthy, I don't ever want to get to a place where I'm like, you've nailed it. I would always rather feel like I have more that I can do than I have arrived. But that, you can start telling yourself things that aren't true based off of assumptions that if you really go backwards, it was a breakdown in communication with resentment that is like a parasite, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. Now, there's a lot of other things, but that is one of the lessons that I have learned. But yeah, it's tough, especially no relationship is perfect. The people who tell me they have a perfect marriage, I'm like, oh, I know many other liars, just like you. Not that they're like a liar, but you're lying to me right to my face in this moment. But sometimes it's hard to schedule those conversations, and you do get emotionally involved, and it's tough to stop yourself short of saying something that you can't unhear. I understand what he's saying, but dude, live in the world of the real. We all are stuck with the things that we have heard and have to deal with. And so I try not to repeat those mistakes. Not perfect at it by any stretch, but those conversations are tough, especially if you're in that heated emotional moment, to say, we need to put a pin in this and come back to this, especially if one of the parties likes resolution.
Yes, and if they like it urgently, which is me. I'm like, we could just talk about it right now. Let's just get it done right now. I don't care that it's midnight. I don't care that we haven't eaten. I don't care that I want that done right now. And fortunately today I'm with someone who is wise enough to say, we can wait 3 days. Everything will be fine. I love you. Very good at validating and saying, you're safe. Our relationship is safe. It is secure. You have nothing to worry about, but we're not going to talk about it until we have time to talk about it. And that quiets all those parts of me down that just need to hear that, so that they can
healthy,
sleep
actually.
at night, right? Yeah, incredibly healthy. The distinction that I think I try to learn from my relationship with my ex there is that I have my go-to is to use words to cause harm. And it took me 30 years at least of doing that repeatedly and seeing the impact that it had on the people that I loved before I was really, really willing to let it go. To say this isn't a weapon I want to wield anymore. And it's been actually an unlearning for me, because sometimes now I have to remind myself that actually words do need to be used to put people onto the right track, right? Yeah. There is a needle to be thread there, and I am certainly trying to do that all the time. It's different in my personal life and my business, because in business you're kind of allowed to be hey, get back in your lane, right? But in your personal life, there's a different balance there. So what I had to unlearn is that just because my brain can think of the worst thing possible to say, to go directly for the jugular and drain them, right? And leave them feeling absolutely just destroyed, that's not a win for me, right? Yeah. In my partnership, if it is me versus them, we've both lost. So if I'm on this person's team and we are working together against something that we have identified to be a problem for both of us, then it is not up for me to destroy them. That is not how either of us is going to get out of this better. And so I had to work through this. So the hour that I spend driving to the garden is undoing all of those things in my mind and saying, okay, we don't have to go there. I don't have to go there. Assuming the best intent, he probably didn't mean to do what I think he did, and therefore I don't need to attack and I don't need to defend. And also there's this big softening that happens, I think, also just as a consequence of growing older, because we get smoothed out. All of the relationships, whether they like succeeded because we stayed together long enough to die, which is a pretty tough definition of success, or the relationships that like have come and gone with ease, like I see myself personally as like a stone that's just been tumbled and tumbled and tumbled and is getting smoother and smoother all of the time until I have like a smooth, glossy exterior that like is easier for me to let go of things.
Yeah.
To say, you know what, like maybe I am the person who should have behaved differently. Maybe the thing that I did was what escalated that, or what led to that additional conflict, or maybe I didn't communicate myself clearly, and therefore they had incomplete information. And it wasn't that they were trying to hurt me; it was that that's all that they could operate with.
I think it's a good thing it's an hour away for a drive for you as well. I think that preamble and maybe even the post afterwards, I actually think that's really healthy. If it was just around the corner, you probably wouldn't have time to prime yourself to be ready for that conversation.
And here's the other thing. I have a lot of support. I have a network of friends who I know I can pick up the phone and they will answer, and I can say, hey, can I just work out this situation with you? He said this thing to me. It brought up that for me. And here's what I'm thinking now. And they can hold that perspective.
Yeah.
They can gas me up if that's what I need. They can come at it from my partner's perspective and add, you know, like, well, if I were him, here's how I would be thinking about it. I also have professional support because I am a coach. I've got a lot of resources. A lot of people do not, and they don't utilize the resources that they do have accessible. And this is especially true for men. More men than ever are reporting that they don't have any close friends, or that they have very few people that they feel that they can share vulnerable information with. Have you seen these stats?
No. Why do you think that is?
Like, I think it's like 1 in 7 men now report that they don't have any close friends.
See, and technically, with our anxiety rectangles, we are living in a world where we're supposed to be the most interconnected ever.
Yeah.
But I think it's very transactional. I think it's very shallow. Why do you think that people are reporting less and less close friends?
Well, I think exactly for that reason that you pointed to. You have access to every single person on the internet in one way or another, right?
Receive, mostly probably receive, but some you can transmit and receive.
Super broad but very shallow interconnectedness, as opposed to like very deep but like limited.
The mile wide and an inch deep versus an inch wide and a mile deep. Yeah,
exactly. You can you're the exact thing that you like. What did you use? Like wearing a dive mask and hitting yourself with a pantyhose filled with shit. Like,
or someone else if they're into it.
You can find the other person that's into it out of all of the people.
You know
he's right over there.
No, I got that. He left his Google search history open one time. Unfortunately, he's logged in under my account, so
it was on incognito mode. But I guess
listen, I don't care. Whatever, like I said, whatever turns your screws, Michaels.
No yucking your yum.
It's fine.
But the cool thing is you can find that person now. But the thing is that you may not know your neighbor now, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's a number of factors that have all led to this point. Why do I think it's worse for men than it is for women? I think men more acutely feel like, I think that the impact on men is just that much worse than it is on women. I think the way that women are socialized, the way that women sort of like interact with each other is already to build more of a network of relationships.
Well, you guys communicate at a higher level, even just from a word count used per day,
and more frequently, and with more folks. And again, we evolved also to do that because this is part of what allows us to care for and raise children, right? And so women have had all these like protective factors against extreme social isolation, and they're still experiencing it too. So men have less of those protective factors, and so they're feeling it even worse. I mean, what are your thoughts? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I do think it has something to do with people thinking that they know somebody, or in interacting just with the screen in front of them. There's something missing there. It might provide at a very shallow level what they think that they're looking for, but there's no depth to it, like you said. And also, we're bombarded with negativity. And I think people get, I mean, I don't have the stats on natural disasters, but if there is an earthquake in somewhere across the world, we're going to hear about it in our feed almost instantly. I don't think that used to be the case, and I don't think our brain is designed to deal with the amount of negativity that we have access to. So I think it shuts people down and isolates them. And since men statistically, even though there are some men I couldn't get to shut up if I wanted to, they talk less. And so I think they just build themselves into a little cave, and they just go a little bit farther and farther and farther. The problem is there's nothing great in there. No.
There's literally nothing in there, actually.
There's very few people I know that actually thrive. Like, if COVID didn't show people anything, There were a couple people that are like, this is the best. I want COVID to last forever. Almost everybody else was, my mental health is horrible.
Yep.
I feel completely disconnected. I hate this. I want to be around other people.
I think we realized, for me anyways, I realized really the ways in which I took those relationships for granted.
Yeah.
Because I thought that they would just always be there. I didn't even know what they were doing for me, but the power of community was really holding for me. Yeah, I think the consequence of the amount of isolation that people experience, combined with the fact that when you reduce another person to like a single picture, right? Like a profile picture, they're this big.
And that's all who they are. The totality of their being.
Everything you've got, right? You've got like 150 characters or so many words of an Instagram bio and then some images from their life. And then you feel like you have enough information to make an assessment about this person, about their character, about their interests, about whether or not you would ever be friends. And then furthermore, you feel like you have space and freedom behind the screen to say anything to them, anything at all. If that person was behind you at the grocery store, you would realize that you have a full person in front of you with a life, who had a history and a morning and has kids and a family and has the shit that they're dealing with, right? But when you reduce them to a two-dimensional object on a screen, they're not really a whole human anymore, right? They're a sparring partner in the comment section.
Yeah.
And I think that also further isolates us because we experience people treating us like that. I don't know what your experience is existing as a person on the internet or like comments
just
like
everybody else's.
Yeah, but like people feel like they'll say things about us in this conversation as well, right?
For sure.
And it's one of the I try to be really selective about reading the comments because one of the things that like kind of comes up for me whenever I see something particularly like hateful towards me is like I'm a person. Like I can't see you saying that to me.
No, they wouldn't. Another thing in the grocery store analogy is you better be real careful who you mouth off to because you might just get punched right in the face.
That's true.
And there's no consequence of that on the internet.
Not. Right.
I was listening to very recently an episode with Rogan and Ethan Hawke. And he was talking about critics of his performance. And I would totally agree that those people, they're artists for sure. And, art can be interpreted by different people. And he was talking about the negative reviews and how he would love to say it doesn't impact him, but it does. And Joe's point, and I've heard him made it a few times, and I think I've talked about this particular type of comment on the show, is he basically said, do you think Michael Jordan is online in your comment section trying to tear you down?
That's great.
He's not. The guy's out there crushing it. The most successful, fulfilled, happy people are not to be found online, not because they're not capable of it.
Right.
It's just not how they became the person that they are.
Right.
So remember that when you're seeing the negative comment. And also that we have a negativity bias. So I don't know about you. You can get 1,000. This was the most, you changed my life, and you'll get one comment like, your shoes make you look like a moron.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the only one you remember.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to find you and use all of my law enforcement contacts. And I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to kill your family. I'm going to make you watch. Hypothetically.
Right. Forget the 1,000 nice things. You guys don't matter at all. This one guy.
And you don't know the person. And I suspect, of course, I have no data to show this, but I suspect that the people who are the most likely to make the negative comments are probably in a place in their life where you wouldn't want to trade with them.
Yes. Yeah. I think
so
too.
Why do we pay attention?
Right.
And I literally can say all that, and then I am as susceptible to getting hooked by it.
Yeah. But and then I wonder, like in terms of the loneliness epidemic and the experience that men are having, is like how much of this is just happening on an individual level, where like whether they're the subject of those or the recipient of those, but they're like just swimming in this sauce, and so this becomes reality, right? If you're not spending a significant amount of time in like the default world reality, like out interacting with the people. Yep. Maybe at a job, maybe a community service, maybe in a men's group, or maybe whatever it is. Like you're not like in the tangible world.
Just go play an organized sport. You're going to work on communication, teamwork, pros and cons, risk, all of these things.
And like just feeling strong in your body helps you to feel strong in your mind.
Yeah.
Right. Like pushing yourself allows you to know that you have limits beyond that which you knew. Like you can go much further than you thought that you could. You can have conversations that you didn't know that you could. I think especially for younger people and the stats that are coming out, particularly around like young men in their early 20s who have like never been on a date or never asked a woman out on a date or had any sort of romantic relationship. Like,
what are you laughing at, Michael?
I think so much of that.
I saw that.
What did you see?
Are you watching the monitors?
Did the camera happen to see that? Or are you making this up?
Oh no, I saw it.
Did the camera see it?
Nope.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Show me the tape.
So let's roll you in here, Michael. You went to Rome and Japan.
Yep.
How many women did you talk to on your trip?
A handful. Not
He's lying about that, I think. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. We did it. We're into 2026, through the holiday season. And if you're anything like me, especially in years past, the holidays can be a little bit rough. There's stress, there's buildup, there's anxiety. And there's no better time to check under the hood to see how you're doing than in January. Start your new year off by reinvesting in yourself. I've had a lot of problems in my life, some of them small, some of them big. Some of them I had the answers to and the tools that allowed me to be capable to work through them, and others I didn't, and I needed to reach out to a higher level of care. In the digital world that we live in, you are always going to have access to talk to somebody, even if you live geographically very remote. So with BetterHelp, there's over 30,000 therapists. It's the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works. With an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. It's extremely convenient. You can join a session with a click of a button from your mobile device, so it fits right into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/clearedhop. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, Hotel Echo Lima Papa.com/clearedhot. Back to the show.
Okay,
he went to Japan and took pictures of architecture.
Here's your question. How many women did you talk to?
Yeah.
A handful.
Yeah, but I know you're lying, though, because you're embarrassed to say 0.
No, I legitimately did talk to a handful of women.
I believe
now,
you.
Was it an actual conversation? No, not really. It was like a server.
Yeah.
But I did talk to women.
That's
Did
good.
you talk to any other people that were tourists or women that were expats? Or
I talked to other people, like a couple other people. I generally don't really like talking to new people anyways. So I'm just kind of keep to myself. But yeah, I talked to a few other people.
Really good way
tourists.
to develop a social circle.
Yeah, a social circle in a different country of people I'll never see again.
That's what the internet's for. You could FaceTime them. Checkmate.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that.
So what he is describing, though, I've also seen some stats, not only around, and there, I mean, again, Michael and I know each other really well. People think I give him a hard time, which is 100% accurate. 'Cause I'm trying to forge him into a weapon that he doesn't even understand the lethality that he'll have, and he's going to crush the world at some point after he's not 23 anymore. But we've talked about relationship stuff off air, and obviously I'll leave that stuff off air. But I've also seen stats that are showing men of his age that's a little bit more of the trend. And also young men and women are avoiding engaging in sexual activity. Now, what do you think what do you think that's about?
Well, I think that online dating has made a pretty significant shift in the way that people meet each other. And there's been some positives that have come from that, and there's been a lot of negatives that have come from the shift towards online dating. Because when you meet someone in person, you have a chance to actually see them in motion. Your nose actually responds much faster to a person than your eyes do. You actually get information. Yeah, because your nose developed first. So it's older technology. Okay. And your nose also will tell you so much more about whether or not a person is a good genetic match for you to mate with, right? Which may or may not mean that they're a great partner for you, but they will let you know that there's attraction there, right? Your eyes, which are younger in evolution, they will tell you whether or not you're physically attracted to another person, right? But they can't tell you if the two of you are going to have any sort of chemistry in the same way that your nose can, and in the same way that interacting with someone in a physical space can. I learned how to partner dance in the last couple of years. I learned how to swing dance. And you can pick up so much about a person from partner dancing with them, the way that they move and they engage, so much more than you can get from just having a conversation. And certainly so much more than you can get from a photograph, right? So when we're dating online, we're choosing people with our eyes, and we're not choosing them based off of how they actually move in a space and do they make us laugh and how do they smell. We're choosing them based on 5 to 7 images that they curated and a handful of words. And then online dating becomes a very, very miserable game that people are playing, and they feel like it's just a numbers game, because it sort of is. How many times do you have to roll the dice on someone that you look attractive to you before you find someone who smells attractive to you, who your body actually like feels good around, who you have chemistry with. And so people burn themselves out. They go on 50 or 100 dates to find one person that they want to go on more than one date with. And
that sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. And I'm saying this like having had very limited experience with it. All of my partners, my significant relationships, I met online, or I met in person rather. I've not really spent a lot of time online dating, because every time I've tried it in my past, I've gone, oh, the juice is not worth the squeeze on how much effort this takes. And that's for me.
Yeah. What did you describe it as, Michael, the last time you described online dating? Was it a dumpster fire?
Oh, yeah. Pretty much. I mean, something similar to that. Yeah,
you're an attractive guy. I imagine that you would do well. I imagine
Take
you could.
it easy.
I think
we don't really use compliments in this.
Don't push my ego like that.
Let me rephrase that.
Like
Michael,
complex.
you're not the most hideously ugly person.
I mean, I could guess a reason or two why somebody might give you a second look.
Yeah.
No,
it's horrible.
Yeah, I have zero experience with it, thankfully, because I have heard that version, a dumpster fire version, more often than not.
Did you find that it was exhausting, like mentally, emotionally exhausting?
It's incredibly exhausting. Yeah. I mean, even trying to set up a date is like pulling nails. It's ridiculous. Or teeth, I guess the expression is pulling teeth. And then getting to the date, it's like half the time it's not even worth it. You're just like, this person is not what I want at all. And it's just like, oh my God, it's so exhausting.
Right. Whereas like if you're in a room with a whole bunch of other people, you can like assess 20 or 30, maybe you go to like a house party, you can assess like 15 other people of the opposite sex.
House parties.
Big party guy.
DJ Big Mike.
House. But there is a certain advantage to being in person with other folks.
Or like in other countries where he didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
You and I had different...
I'm working on it. I have hope.
I travel different, but it's not for, again, I'm super extroverted. So everywhere that I've traveled, I've wanted to meet people and date people and have, explore and meet the locals and do all the things. So
you think the online thing though is what's causing the decrease? Do you think it's a decrease in desire to have sex from younger men and women, or they're just tired of the tools that they have to play with?
I think that vulnerability is cringe. And I think that, and I'm not shading Gen Z.
Michael, write that down for a T-shirt.
Vulnerability is cringe.
It might actually sell quite well.
I think that, so here's what I live across the street from a middle school.
Yep.
And I don't know if you are familiar with this. This is maybe specific to Los Angeles where I live too, but like everyone dresses the same now. Like every middle schooler, they wear the same clothes. They look indistinguishable from one another. And I mean, no disrespect to the middle schoolers I live across from. But I can't help but notice, like I'll see them walk in a pack of like 6 or 8 and they all look like carbon copies of each other. There's this sort of move towards a singular, like acceptable, very sort of lowest common denominator aesthetic that I think we're seeing in plastic surgery. So we're seeing that in people's faces, and we're seeing it in certainly in younger generations. And I think that's sort of like across the board, we're seeing sort of like a neutralization of our aesthetic. I mean, you can see it in apps. Like apps are moving overwhelmingly to like black and white and grayscale. They used to be a lot more colorful. So I think we are across the board, we're experiencing this sort of like move towards things that feel maybe safer, feel a little blander, feel a little more neutral. And I think that the experience of online dating is already like rife with rejection. It's already a place in which you have to be vulnerable to get a result, but the very act of being vulnerable means that you're putting yourself out there. And when people do not want to meet with you, or they cancel, or they ghost you, or they say, but like that hurts on a pretty deep level. And so it's just a lot safer not to. It's a lot safer to not express yourself outside of what is considered acceptable. It's a lot safer to just not be vulnerable. And I don't envy people who are growing up in younger generation today who have had their entire life on camera, who have had selfie mode on their phones since
filter
childhood.
Mode with the selfies.
I mean, this is the other thing that's true about middle schoolers, at least from my experience. I'm not a parent, is that they look a lot older. They know more about makeup and hair and all of these things. Like when I look
anxiety rectangle.
When I look at my images from middle school, like that girl could not exist today. She had braces and a funny haircut, and she didn't know any differently. There was no makeup tutorial on YouTube telling me otherwise. I was just like slapping on whatever glitter I had, from
I
Claire's.
think your life is better, though, at that age, not worrying about the makeup.
I agree, but I think that all of that absolutely leads to a world in which we are less excited to engage with one another because we are constantly monitoring ourselves for acceptability.
That's a lonely place. It also, over a long enough period of time, will destroy populations.
I think so, yeah.
That's not good.
No. Well, and here's, what else is interesting about younger generations? Gen Z drinks a lot less alcohol.
That's probably for the better.
It is for the better. And also, and Jeff Galloway makes this point really eloquently, it means that less people are making sort of like sexual mistakes, which on one hand is great, right? That probably leads to reduced consent regret and unconsensual encounters and mixed communications and just regretful experiences, right? And at the same time, a lot of folks' early sexual encounters, at least like from my generation, came with alcohol's assistance.
100%.
Right? And
Whether
so
it's
we
a
have this
social
like trade-off.
lubricant or to get you outside of your own skin.
Totally.
Yeah.
So really good thing that people are not drinking as much and they're staying in their bodies and they're they're experimenting with other things. But alcohol is like a particularly, it's got a lot of negative consequences on the individual and society as a whole.
Totally.
Phenomenal. And we don't have like a replacement social lubricant that allows people to sort of like relax and find a little bit more courage to engage with each other. So there is a bit of a trade-off there.
How do you think we fix that? Because all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. I think...
Oh, you think for
the... Well, here's the thing. How old are you? I'm not supposed to ask women.
I'm 36.
Okay, I'm 48. So basically an elder. It's not a big deal.
Do you identify as Gen X?
I don't know. I don't identify as anything. Just show up.
Show up, low expectations.
I mean, in this world, I could be a Gen Z, right? I can identify as whatever I want to. If I can pick a gender, why can't I pick an age? I want Social Security now.
I know folks who are very Gen Z in their 40s, so you can.
I don't even know what Gen Z
You can
means.
identify with your gender.
I was born in the late 70s, whatever that is. I look back on those experiences of being uncomfortable and having to talk yourself into saying hello to somebody and not having the words and just being like, I swallowed a bug, I gotta go. You need those little micro uppercuts in your life because in totality, they of course suck in the moment. And you feel like, I am an idiot, I'm never doing that again. And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna go do that again right over here.
Totally, yeah.
And that helps you later in life. So these people, the young men and women who are devoid of those experiences, they're still going to have to work through this awkward phase at some point. I guess I'm glad now looking back at how old I am that it happened at that phase of my life because I wouldn't want that to happen in my late 20s. Let's do that in your late teens, early 20s, because then you can build on those things. I worry they'd be a little bit behind the power curve.
Right. Get that out of the way. It's easier to fall down and get back up when you're young. Right?
You're the most capable of doing so at that time. Like, I'm not saying go embarrass yourself where you live, but you're probably going to move away from where you live growing up. So maybe, I'm not saying be an asshole, but be the fullest expression of yourself.
Right.
You might not have to see those people ever again.
Be willing to make mistakes.
Yeah, take the little micro uppercuts.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Those little moments of discomfort are exactly what forms you so that you have the capacity to do the things that you want to do later in life, because life only becomes increasing shades of uncomfortable. But hopefully you get a higher degree of choice as you go.
Well, that cohort, I think, is just pushing that can down the road. And I don't know if there's a lot of benefit in that.
That's an interesting thought. I like your perspective that they're going to have to go through it eventually.
I don't know how you skip that phase.
Well, I guess if you want to date, marry, have kids, then I don't know how you skip it. I don't think
exactly.
You do. Right.
You are going to, hey, spoiler alert for everybody on life. You are an idiot. You are going to be an idiot many times.
Yeah.
The more you're an idiot now, I would like to say the less you will be in the future. It depends on the person.
Well, the good news is that we're all idiots. Like
Totally.
you're not special for you. I think that's the other piece of this is like you said it earlier. We all kind of believe that we are alone and we're the only one who's dealing with the thing that we're dealing with.
Such a
and
dangerous
we're
narrative.
not. Everybody's got it. A version of the thing that you've got.
Yeah.
And when you don't talk to other people about it, even if that person is like a professional, but it's like certainly if you don't talk to another human being, especially one who looks like you, especially if you're a man, if you don't talk to another man or another guy your age or roundabout about the thing, then you are going to continue to live with the illusion that you are alone, and you're not, right? And feeling that you are alone is the thing that causes you to isolate. You then you do become alone.
Well, then you feel like you're alone, but you're connected to your device. Right. So you have access to the world. It has access back to you, but you're not actually physically interfacing with it. I don't know what comes from that because, I mean, we're in a place now where my kids do not remember a world pre-internet. I do.
Right.
and my oldest is 22. I have 22, 20, and 17, boy, girl. So we'll see, I guess, what the long term is, because we don't know.
Right. We don't. But here's what I think. If I had to like offer a prescription for the world, I actually think I would take it all the way back to pleasure. I would teach people how to experience and prioritize and feel like they have autonomy in the things that bring them pleasure. It shouldn't be limited to sex. In fact, if sex is your only source of pleasure, you are setting yourself up to fail, because you're going to put way too much pressure on sex. Right. But if it is doing hot yoga that brings you pleasure, if it is fishing that brings you pleasure, if it is working and building with your hands that brings you pleasure, if it is like being in community and making food and feeding the people that you love, but like focusing on the things that like allow for you to feel good, like just good for good's sake, things that bring light to other people, that bring joy to other people, because those are the most satisfying things anyways. Those are the things that inoculate us against feeling isolated, right? Like, you love baking, fuck yeah, bake and share what you've baked with other people. I guarantee that will be a source of pleasure for you that you can go back to over and over again. You're digging a well for yourself, right? The cool thing about the things that bring us pleasure is that they are unique to us, right? We share them with other people, but there is a sense of like autonomy and sovereignty and self-expression in that, because it doesn't have to, it's not for anyone else. Like, it doesn't have to, you can wear the thing that you love so proudly because it is just the thing that you love, right? It gives you an opportunity to connect with other people who are also in that thing or can benefit from that thing. And if you can have a relationship to pleasure as a whole that is not situated in shame, like you can allow yourself to enjoy something, and you can allow yourself to hold that thing gently because you love it. You don't have to be perfect at it because it brings you joy. You know, you're going to continue to learn about it for the rest of your life, because you're not trying to be perfect at it. You just are receiving satisfaction from it. And then you can bring that into the rest of your world, the rest of your life. If feeling joy and satisfaction and connection for you are associated with getting things right, being perfect, being impeccable, not being vulnerable, it's going to be very, very hard to share your world with other people. Yeah. And again, just to bring it all the way back to sex, like, sex is a great place for you to start doing that. It's a great place for you to connect with yourself and connect with other people around something that feels good and can be done thoughtfully and intentionally and healthily. And you know, if we just were to focus on that aspect of sex and relationships, I think it would be a lot easier for people to sort of set down the rest of it and just see the inherent good that can come from us in getting involved with one another.
Yeah, which is basically what these devices take from you.
It is an illusion of pleasure.
Correct. Yeah. The research is resounding. The dopamine, the micro, and then what it does, you get used to it. It destroys self-image. It destroys your real world dopamine receptors. It's like you have to keep escalating. Yeah, it's a wild way to live. I'd be curious in 30, 40 years looking back on the data, like, oh, yeah, that was a real good job, everybody. Real good job.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
The society's population is just diminishing. Because, we end up, what's the movie with Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock when they're in the future and sex was a headset and they sat on couch? Demolition Man.
Oh, yes.
$100, you haven't seen that movie, Michael. He's like, God, you are unbelievable. 1 out of 10 he catches.
I'm going to look it up right now.
You're going to see Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock, and they're probably in some weird police uniforms.
Yep, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah. But like illusion of connection, illusion of satisfaction. And we talk again about like people who have an unhealthy relationship with porn, like illusion of connection there, that like you're getting this need met. But it's not the thing itself. It's not the thing that you're actually looking for. It is like a simulacrum of relationship, of romance, of sexuality, of intimacy. It's not the thing itself. The thing itself is like way scarier and more vulnerable, but it's also way higher reward. Yeah. Like I think maybe you could look at it like this. The more that we play it safe, the less that we get out of our life, right? Higher risk anything, the more that we put of ourselves into anything that we do risk failing and falling on our butt. We risk the discomfort. We risk being humiliated. We could fall on our face and we will if we're doing it right.
Yeah. And you need to do that.
Yeah.
You have to get stung, in my opinion, at least. I have learned the most success and failure. You can learn from both. The failures have stayed with me a lot more than the successes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to rob people from that. It's hard to look at my kids and think in my head, man, I can't wait till till you fail. Not like macro failure in life, and it happens to all of them. They get the little uppercuts along the way, and sometimes I see it coming. I'm like, I'm not saying a damn thing. As long as they're safe, like we're going to let this happen.
An interesting person, you know? Like I was learning about hydroponic plants the other day, and like I was like growing like green onions. I learned that if you cut all the green onions off, you can just stick the bottom in water and they grow back.
Really?
I thank you. I was today years old when I learned this. You just like chop them all off, throw them in water, put them in a windowsill, they'll grow back. And they're growing back, and I'm on like the third or fourth round of them growing back from just water. And they're like not as strong as they were.
Yeah,
right?
that
The
makes
flavor's
sense.
not happening so much, right? So then I'm looking up and like, how is it that we grow plants in water and they give them just the right amount of potassium and nitrogen and all the things that they need, right? But what ends up happening is that you grow these like really beautiful, like stunning plants, and they have no flavor at all. Because the thing that makes for an interesting plant, and this is true, I mean, Psalms know this about wine, and I'm sure there's a ton of other examples out there, is that they are made interesting by their hardship. It is not having enough nitrogen that made that lettuce look a little funky, but taste incredible, right? Like it is the conditions of hardship that actually shape us to have flavor.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. What is it? Have you noticed anything when people find you, men or women? A lot of people, probably myself included in this, you'll try to solve it. You try to solve something, anything you're dealing with, and then you get to a point, and the a point is different for people and depending on what it is. And then finally you're like, I can't do this on my own, and I try to seek help. Where is that point, or have you found any patterns in that point for people coming to speak with you?
Oh, they're at that point.
Yeah.
They're beyond that point, right? Because I work with men who, for the most part, would prefer to just not have to deal with this.
Or let anybody know that they are dealing with it for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is inherently a courageous act to reach out to me or my team in order to get support, because it requires this tremendous first step of saying like, I actually cannot do this on my own. I need help with this, which requires us even saying that this is a challenge. One of the greatest barriers that I have to entry is men just not wanting to admit that there is a problem at all, right? Because it is scary to even say that, right?
I'm looking forward to the place in my life where there are no problems of any kind. I feel like it's next week.
Right.
2026 is going to be my year.
Yeah, there's all these. I don't have a single problem. There's nothing to look at over there.
I'll have all the money I've ever wanted, and that will solve all problems.
But don't lift the rug. There's nothing under there to see.
And don't worry about the backyard. The backhoe's back there just because I like gardening.
Yeah, it's perfect back there too. So they have to have already done these really courageous things of saying like, there is a problem and I'm not capable of solving it on my own. Huge steps.
Yeah.
So I do coaching, but what I actually sell a lot more of than coaching is courses, because I realized really early on that if I put what I was doing with a client into a video course and told men that they could just take it privately at their own pace, without having to actually talk to another person, that they would do that.
That
and
would
actually
definitely be their first step for most
people. It is
people.
incredible. They actually adhere to these courses, like really, because I will buy an online course and kind of like dabble a little bit, but I do really well in a container with another human being. That's where I really thrive.
Yeah.
Unless it's maybe like learning a really specific skill, then I can like stick with the course for a long enough time. But either way, I developed all these courses because I realized that was a way better way to reach people. And remember, my mission was just get this to as many people as possible. YouTube is a medium for that mission, to get to as many people as possible. My TV show on Discovery Plus and on HBO Max is just a medium for that. The courses, just a medium for that. The book, just a medium for that. How do I get this information to more hands?
Yeah.
And you get it to more people by decreasing the barriers to entry so that they can just do it on their own, on their phone, in the privacy of their own home. No one has to know that they're going through the course, and they can work that out to the degree that they're capable. You're still kind of doing it on your own, but you're doing it with help.
You have a framework.
And then, yes, exactly, a structure. And then if you're not able to, or that's not satisfying, or you find that you're not able to like complete the online course, you have ADHD like I do, and so that's not the ideal framework for you, then...
Have you been diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah, I have.
I'm seeing a rash of people who have told me they have ADHD. And I say, who tells you that you have that? And they're like, me. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I was first diagnosed at 18, and I was like, that's not me at all. That's like, I was just kind of like, screw you.
I swear, and trust me, I legitimately... I get it, but it's hilarious to me if you ask that one question, like, oh, did you go to a doctor for that? They're like, no.
No, yeah, totally. No. My dad and my uncle used to tell me all the time, ADHD is not real because open up your brain and tell me where the ADHD is. And there's no gene that has ADHD. I mean, this is, two guys kicking back beers and saying this to a 12-year-old, but
A lot of wisdom. So much wisdom.
they were very wise men. I love them, miss them every day. But if so you find that the online course isn't for you, great. Like hire a coach. The reason that I put this all down into a book with 75,000 words is because I wanted people to be able to access it in an even easier to afford format, in a format that you need not sign into anything. I mean, you can have it on an ebook or on an audiobook, but like a format that you can just you can digest this even more so at your own pace. The power can go out and you can have a single candle and you can still get this information. Like just put it into as many ways as possible so that men can receive it.
Yeah. How'd the TV shows come about?
The TV show, they found me on YouTube, actually. So for a while, when I was kind of like coming up on YouTube, I would get casting calls on a pretty regular basis. People would reach out to me and they'd say, we're thinking about, we're developing a show on this or that. We want to talk to you and we want to film it.
So many of those.
You've gotten casting calls?
I get them. Generally, it's the potential to be a host on a show that has some tangential connection to the military. Or we would love you to come on and talk about the different calibers of guns. I'm like, listen, I understand how to use a gun. I'm not an expert in how they're made. And people ask me about bullets. I'm like, where did you get your bullets? I'm like, from the green box. They came out of the green box into a brown one. They're like, what kind were they? I'm like, the kind that went bang. I don't know. I don't care. I know how to use the tool. I'm sorry. I never got into the gun thing. That didn't turn my screws. Sorry.
Yeah, there is someone who is an expert at that.
100%. Go find that guy as a host. I don't know this.
Do you have any interest in doing those larger media productions?
Only because what I value the most right now is my time.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now is, I think, my favorite thing. And I accidentally fell into this years ago. And I mean, you and I would not have met otherwise.
It's true.
And I'll be honest, I've never, until, who was it that reached out? Were they part of your team or a publisher?
Yeah, it was a publisher. Yeah.
So before that, I had never come across your content on YouTube, but that's a matter of my own algorithm. Like, I'm very heavily into sovereign citizens getting thrown on the ground and arrested. And it's like, I wonder why that's the case. But because I click on every single one.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Especially on airplanes. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, mine's all pop culture criticism, which I'm not.
And so I wouldn't have naturally encountered that. But so you and I would have never had the chance to have this conversation. And I would much rather do this with my time than travel somewhere and be on a set for 8 to 9 hours, be told what to wear, kind of where to stand, what to say. I am not against any of that. I value this more.
Yeah,
and
I absolutely get that. Having had a TV show, I can say absolutely that there is a distinction that you have a level of control that you do not enjoy when you are on someone else's production.
Yeah, you are not paying the bills for what's making the production go. Right. So at some level, you're somebody's employee. Right. And I've been working for myself now for almost 10 years, and I don't think I could go back.
Yeah, it's very hard. It is very hard. Now, I loved doing the show, and again, it was a fabulous vehicle for fulfilling my life mission of getting it into the hands of as many people as possible. I got to work with couples on the show, which was also a tremendous opportunity too, because we get to actually like show what people are like behind closed doors in a way that you just can't really capture, I think anyways, like in an honest and very vulnerable way. So on my show, we actually had cameras inside folks' bedrooms. And so we actually had bedroom footage of them being intimate.
I feel like there's some waivers associated with this.
There were so many waivers, but again, I wasn't the legal on the show because it was a real production, so I didn't have to do all those things. Whereas on my YouTube channel, I am the legal team. And
do you feel like the people who signed up for that, there was a slight level of
exhibitionism,
voyeurism, or that might have been a little bit of the kink?
Yeah, you're not signing up for that without having like a degree of,
because that sounds mortifying to me. By the way, I would not even pitch that idea to my wife, because even if she were to say, yeah, I guess I'd be fine doing that, I'd be like, nope, not my thing. No way, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that was really cool about it was that these cameras were running 24/7 throughout the half a year or something that we shot. And so it wasn't just sex that we saw on the cameras. I would literally give them an assignment. They'd have to go practice it.
I was a fraction of
but we would see all kinds of other things. And as a coach, someone coming in and trying to describe a sexual encounter, it is very difficult. I was involved in a study during my master's degree that was trying to sort of pinpoint a moment where an STI was transmitted. Mm-hmm. And we created, my advisor, Vanessa Schick, made this calendar or like a tool to collect data that would be like person A, hand A, person B, hand B.
Damn, very clinical.
Toy. This is, IU. And then like across time, and then it would be like mouse to toy to hand to this, and then you're trying to have people like actually remember what happened first and then what and then what. It's very difficult for someone to describe a sexual encounter. to remember it and describe the actions and behaviors faithfully. But then there's all of this subjective terminology that doesn't mean the same thing to me as it does to anyone else, right? Like, what is hard? What is soft? What is fast? What is slow? We may have a very different definition of what hard and soft are. And so I have a client come in and they say, well, we started really slow. Okay. And then we did this and we did this and we did this and then this happened, right? 10 seconds of video, I know way more than they're able to put into words. And we don't have to argue over what slow is.
Yeah, totally.
Because we can now have an exact conversation where I could pinpoint, here is the moment where this shifted. And if you had gone in a different direction, you would have gotten a different result. So that part was really, really powerful. And I enjoyed that part of the show. But yeah, they came to me and asked me if I wanted to be involved. And I'd done so many of these casting calls at this point, and they were all just like Zoom interviews. That on that one in particular, I was just like, here's what we got to do. And I just laid it all out. Here, like, if you want to make that show succeed, here's exactly how I would do it. And they were like, when can you come to LA?
Damn. Would you do another one? Would you do another show if they offered it?
Yes. There are things that I would do that I would like insist on doing differently. That we filmed the show under like pretty intense COVID policies. And so now it would be very different. It'd be, I think, a lot easier for us to film the show because there would just be like less red tape and restrictions in the way. But I have some ideas over like how the length of time that is like really necessary to see the kind of transformation that I want to see. I mean, we did several one-offs during the show. There's a great one-off session that I do with a adult virgin. I think he is around the age of 30 and he's never had any sort of sexual contact with a woman. And it's phenomenal. I talked to him for like it's an hour and a half. It's cut down to maybe like 3 minutes in the show. It is so many people's like favorite moment in the show. Yeah. And it's partially because he's so earnest in like his learning. We have like a sex doll and I show him, like, here's a vulva. We do an anatomy lesson. We like kind of go through the whole system so that he feels a little bit more comfortable.
Was his mind just blown?
Yes. but like what's even cooler about that is like I'm actually like having him like interact with the doll and try some different like techniques on it, and you can just watch the gears turning. I think that's the cool part, is that because he's not under pressure, because he's not with a real woman to be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, I've got this, right? Instead, he's like really feeling it out and he's really like thinking about it, and you can just see him like putting all of these gears in place. Again, it's like being willing to just like try, right? And do it imperfectly.
How do you arrive at 28 without any sexual experience? And I say that without any judgment. I know life is different for people. How did he get to that point?
I think for a lot of folks, they sort of believe it's going to happen and that they don't necessarily need to be an active participant in making it happen. And they sort of assumed that like by now it would have happened. By now it would have happened. Oh, and then they get to college and then they think, well, it's definitely going to happen at one point in college. And then maybe they get through college and it didn't happen. And then they start to like at each turn.
Now it's becoming an issue probably.
And then they start to pull themselves out of the field. A lot of men across the board, even the most sexually experienced men I have ever worked with, will say to me, I'm not very experienced. I have less experience than other men. Because they assume the story that they have about other men is that they have more sexual experience. Everyone else has more experience.
Where are they hearing those stories from? That's interesting.
I think it is just sort of part of the air that we breathe, is that part of the way that men in particular feel insecure about themselves sexually is that they feel they should have had more experience.
I mean, you're the professional here. What's more important, quality or quantity?
I mean, I would take quality all the time.
I think so too.
Yeah. But then again, you can have sex 100 times with one person and learn their body really, really well. Or you can have sex one time with 100 people and learn a whole bunch about bodies. You're going to learn either way.
That's true. Okay.
There's no like right way of going about getting those experiences. But I think if you just assume that they will happen to you and that you're not being an active participant in making them happen, then you might wake up one day and realize that those early ships have sailed, and now the barrier to entry is a lot higher partially because you didn't go through and have those little like micro experiences of fucking up, but now the assumption of your peers is going to be that you do have experience, and so you're going to be a little bit more in your head and more self-conscious because of the lack of experience.
Did he find a partner?
He did have intercourse after that. And how'd
it go for him?
That I don't know. The running joke on the set though was that like once this airs, you're gonna have people being like, I'll take your virginity. You know?
What's his Instagram? Don't go into your inbox.
There were producers on set that were like, I'll fuck him like that.
That's kind.
Yeah.
They're giving.
And I think, it's doing it for the plot a little bit too. But I think, we have a lot of assumptions about our desirability or attractiveness. And then, you see something like that and you're like, actually, there's multiple lids for every jar, it turns out.
Yeah. Have you followed at all or seen the P Diddy documentary?
No, but only because I'm very, very sensitive to these things. And even just reading the files from the court case was a lot for me. Did you watch it?
I was just on the road in Texas, had a little bit of hotel time. I had watched the first episode before I went. It was a quick turnaround, but yes, stripping out the abuse, which was horrendous, and there was nothing that I would like to do more to people like that than to beat them to death with my own hands, for clarity. I cannot stand that type of violence against victimizable community. It at my baseline level, I want to do something about it. Stripping that aside, and again, I'm not anybody to judge others' sexual proclivities, but my God, they were essentially, first off, for years, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched the documentary, which, by the way, was produced by 50 Cent, one of his mortal enemies.
That's a great backstory, by the way.
Well played, Netflix, to hand that over. Man, they dug deep.
Oh, yeah, because 50 Cent had been on it for like 10 years,
yes,
by the way. 50 Cent knew that. No. And Josh Johnson actually is an amazing YouTube comedian and has 2-hour-long specials where he explains the backstory. And it is hysterical how
that
bad
man
50
played the
Cent
long game.
He
played the long game. And
yes,
let me just say, as somebody who didn't know much about the situation, 50 months in prison is not enough.
Is that what he got?
He got 50 months with time served. So he, I think, will be out in 4+ years.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
And again, I wasn't a juror. And they actually did interview a couple of the jurors. And one of the issues that it came back to was clear understanding and definition of consent. And if it wasn't consensual, why did some of them stay for years and stay involved? And again, I'm glad I wasn't in that room having to make that decision. I don't know the legal threshold for these things. I was just looking at it from the perspective of sexual behavior. So I hate the name Diddy, by the way. Sean, one of the women that was featured, he was married before, and actually at the end of his marriage to the woman I think who has the majority of his children with him, there was a woman named Cassie, and she was the one who was actually very physically abused in the security camera footage.
Right.
For years, it started, they were in a hotel in New York, and they hire a gigolo. And Sean comes down with like this mask on, going back to a term that is one of my favorite, cuckold. Which once I understood what it meant, I tried to apply it very broadly in my life to things that have absolutely nothing to do with it. And he would sit there and kind of direct, and there was this power play of she would have to ask to do, kind of anything. And sometimes the answer was yes, and sometimes no, you're not ready. But so this went on with this particular man who was in the documentary and was interviewed. But they would have sex for a day and a half, for 2 days. The baby oil, the 10,000 bottle. He described the first time that they handed over a bottle of baby oil to him. He's like, I put it on like a normal human being. And he said that the woman was like, no, that's not how we do it. And she's just like, shh. So I don't know what that's all about, nor do I know what the laundry bill was like at that particular hotel.
Oh my gosh, you're just throwing sheets out at that
But
point.
is that, and it's interesting. It seems as if you get into socioeconomic statuses where nothing is outside of your ability to procure it, that kinks start to present themselves. I would have to describe, and so eventually Sean participated, but they would call him out on, he would travel with them sometimes, like this for years. And eventually they introduced, I think it was either ecstasy or Molly. I don't have experience with either one, but that's because he was asking, he's like, how do you guys do this for so long?
There's no way that you're doing this for multiple days sober.
No. And so that all of the chemical stuff came along a little bit later on, but for years. And then, that behavior was obviously repeated, and it was all over the place. And I'm like, was this person always like this? Or when you have access and the ability for everything is within economic reach, is that the only way that you can actually feel alive or normal?
Yeah, I think that from everything that I understand with this case in particular, so much of it comes down to power.
There was, again, she would ask for permission, and sometimes it was yes, and sometimes it was no, and there didn't seem to be any justifiable, in air quotes, determining factor as to why he said yes or no.
Right.
But there wasn't, I mean, you could tell in just the way he was physically abusing her, and the physical abuse in the security cam footage, which I think came from a hotel, was one of many.
Yes.
Yeah.
I imagine that wasn't the first or the only time that happened. But in the case documents that I read, some of the earlier allegations against him were coming actually from college women when he would perform on college campuses, and that he would. Was accused of drugging and assaulting college women after performing on their campuses. And the thing that really stuck out to me as fascinating about that is that I should think that as a music performer at a college campus, it would not be difficult for you to have consensual sex.
You would think so, right?
Right.
Somebody who is relatively famous, especially as their ascent into
In my personal experience, someone with a microphone and any degree of talent,
they're throwing panties at that person.
Yes, it's not you. You do not have to drug or coerce women into having sex with you.
Ties into the control aspect,
unless
though,
you enjoy having power over other people. Unless the actual joy that you are getting is in doing harm to other people, and then sex is just the vehicle for that.
Yeah.
The other piece about that I think is interesting, like if you do have that degree of power and socioeconomic status, circling back to the conversation we had earlier, your life is easy. Right?
In many ways, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's not necessarily all easy, but like
people say money doesn't solve all problems. It solves quite a few.
It solves a lot of the core ones that most people deal with, right? And to a degree, if you can, pretty much buy anything in any store, and there's no real adversity. We think that we don't want adversity, right? Yeah. We think that we want the beautiful butter lettuce that was made under perfect conditions. We actually do want adversity. We want a little bit of adversity. We want it. We call it in my partnership. We call it mild adversity. The things that make for an interesting experience. If you go on a vacation and everything works out exactly right, like they have your car ready and the hotel room is just fine and the beach was perfect that day and the lobster was delicious or whatever, there's what was memorable about that? Oh yeah, well that was a nice sunset, wasn't it? That was the sunset that, remember, we had to race across the island because you left your toothbrush or whatever and then we almost missed our flight. Those are the things that we really remember. And so I think that we get into a point, for many of us, because we are so comfortable, where we actually begin to manufacture adversity, or we begin to need to entertain ourselves through seeking increasing levels of intensity in order to have us feel alive. My thinking on that, as someone who's not an expert on the case and hasn't followed it that closely, again, just because of my own sensitivity towards these things, is that if you are in a position where you wield a lot of power over folks, and you are able to coerce people into staying with you for many, many years. And I think we don't fully understand, and courts are not an ideal place to really flesh out the dynamics that exist, the psychology that exists between, someone who's saying, I love you, I'll protect you, I'm the only person who can make your career or give you what you want or give you access to the people that you need access to in order to succeed. But in order for me to do those, you have to behave in this way or do these things or submit yourself to me in these ways. There's an incredible dynamic there that yes, of course, we're talking about adults who do have free will and have the capacity to go and leave. I'm glad that I'm not the person who has to decide or be in that jury to determine whether or not that person's staying because they are consenting to this. I do think that there's a great degree of coercion that is involved in this. And I think sometimes about that quote, everything is about sex except for sex, which is about power. And I don't agree with it wholeheartedly. I think it's a bit of an oversimplification of something that is not explicitly about power. I think sex is about union and can be about divinity and can be about connection and can be about a whole lot of things. It doesn't need to be a power exchange. But in those instances, I think sex becomes just the theater in which power is executed. And I think because it is particularly often very secretive, because people experience quite a bit of shame, because it is inherently taboo, Like I teach a system that was invented by my mentor Jaya called the Erotic Blueprints, and the blueprints are energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. And I'm happy to describe all of those.
Shapeshifter?
Shapeshifter. But
Are we talking about ghosts or
the
werewolves?
the shapeshifter is someone who can just play in all the other roles.
Okay.
Who like can speak all of the languages. If we were to think about each of the blueprints as a language, like the shapeshifter is just multilingual.
Go through it. Go through the
Sure.
blueprint.
Okay, and then I'll circle back to Kink, but you may have to remind me how we got there. So
I may forget.
Okay, great. A system of 5 different ways that arousal exists in the body. The arousal occurs. So Jaya is a tremendous body worker, sexological body worker. Literally got to like interact and witness people's bodies over years. And what she noticed is that there's sort of like 5 arousal patterns that exist in people. And the first one is energetic, and these are folks who are turned on by tease and anticipation and like almost the space between. They're very, very sensitive, and they need for the energy between them and their partner to feel right. Like the intangible aspects of the relationship have got to feel good before they can feel aroused and turned on and be interested in
They have to be connected in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also can have like full body non-touch, non-genital orgasms. And they are, but the downside, their shadow side, is that they are so sensitive that they can sort of short circuit. These are folks that like, if you go straight for their genitals or straight for their nipples or straight for their breasts, that like, they might be like, that was too much. And then they're not actually able to like get back into the flow or to get turned on.
Interesting.
Because they're antennas, finely tuned antennas. So that's the energetic. Next blueprint is the sensual blueprint. These are people who are turned on by things in their 5 senses. So the way that something looks and tastes and touches and smells. And they also are very, very sensitive. They can also have like non-genital, non-touch orgasms. They often give themselves away because they'll moan when they're eating something. Like they'll take a bite of something and be like, so good. That's very sensual in nature. They also tend to like surround themselves with things that are like sensorially pleasant. So they may like have select fabrics and they might like be playing music all the time in their home. They have like a specific kind of music that they like to be surrounded by, or candles, or they like to arrange the pillows in such a way. And their superpower is that they have a super high tolerance for pleasure. Like they can really be in pleasure for a long time because they can get pleasure in their 5 senses. So they may like to go from like trading massages to a lot of cuddling, a lot of closeness, like a love making. Like all of those things might be things that they want to do and have like a lot of capacity for. Their shadow side is that they can get lost in their head if they're not staying grounded in their body through their senses. So that can look like being close to having an orgasm and then having it disappear. They also can kind of like get disrupted by things not being sort of right. So the pillows being off, or there's a dirty pile of laundry, or I hate this song. They can like need for those things to be correct for them to actually like stay present and stay in their bodies. So that's energetic and sensual. And then we have sexual. And this is what most of us think of when we think about eroticism and arousal. This is like genitals and porn and orgasms and strip clubs. And it is like very body-based. It's very straightforward. It's really hyper-focused on performance and genitals and orgasms. And for people who are primarily sexual blueprint, they can like get turned on by looking at a naked body or thinking about sex, and they can fail to understand why the other blueprints need the bells and whistles that they do.
That makes sense.
In order to be erotic, right?
Yeah,
They can
they'll understand themselves.
Totally. Their superpower is their simplicity, but that can also be their shadow side. And the other thing that's interesting about sexual blueprint folks is that sex for them is just sort of like a basic need. It's like I need to have air and water and food and some sort of sexual connection. And so they can sort of see it like their daily meal, or like the bread that they have, or the rice that comes with every meal. And so like when they're not having it and they don't know that they're going to have sex again, they can start to spin out a little bit. They can start to be like, but it's been since last Tuesday that we had sex, and I don't know when the next time that we are going to have sex is, and that can make them feel a little ungrounded. So that is energetic, sensual, sexual. Next is kinky. So kinky in the Erotic Blueprints has a really broad definition. I think it's really, really genius in this way. So kink in the blueprints means anything that is taboo. Anything that's taboo to you, it's highly subjective.
That shifts all over the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And person to person.
Yeah.
What is taboo and not allowed and kinky for me may be very, very different than what is not allowed for you. The thing that makes it kinky for an individual is just that it is taboo to that person.
Okay.
And that can fall under psychological kink or physical kink. So sometimes when we think about kink, we think about whips and chains.
Yeah.
But it can also be, calling someone by a name or doing dom subplay that is strictly psychological in nature. There need not be any pain exchanged in order for something to be kinky. It could even be like role playing. What did we see earlier? Like driver and chef and all of that.
Yes,
Like that.
plumber.
Plumber. That can be kinky because you're like not supposed to have sex with the plumber, therefore it's kinky. So their superpower is their creativity, right? Like real kinksters can use kink for healing. They can turn, any appliance in your kitchen or any they can turn a spatula into a sex toy, or they can use something almost like an improv actor can take something and like make it into a sexual scenario that can turn someone on. Like that is their real superpower. Their shadow side is shame. So that's in the blueprint system. Shame is sort of housed inside of the kinky blueprint. And then last, as you noted, is the shapeshifter. Now, shapeshifters have the capacity to do any of the other 4 blueprints. And so what they do is they shapeshift to meet their partner. So your partner, let's say they're primarily sexual, like little side of kinky. Shapeshifter can do that because they speak all the languages. Okay, like I'll totally meet you there. But what ends up happening is that they don't get all of their needs met because they're constantly shifting to meet the other person.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
so often what they're told is like, you're too much, you need too much, you're asking for too much, you're too voracious. When actually what's going on is just like they have a lot of capacity. And sometimes in order to like meet those needs, they want to pile on a lot more because they want to experience all of the other blueprints. And they can have the superpowers in the shadows of all of the other blueprints.
Is this under this model? Are you supposed to, or do you naturally find somebody that is similar, or are there like one aligns better than another one?
Or like do opposites attract? Yeah. So it doesn't divide cleanly along gendered lines, but it is true that there are a lot of women that are energetic sensual and are paired with a lot of men that are kinky sexual. And so a lot of those folks find the erotic blueprints because it's a language and a system that makes so much sense because it describes their experience, right? She wants him to slow down and breathe and make eye contact.
And he wants to bring a rubber ducky.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, what do you mean? Why do I need all this? Just like bend over and let me spank you, right? So it's a great system for those folks.
Yeah.
And it is also true that like people of all different kind of blueprints find each other. A lot of people that I have worked with, men in particular, have come to me and I'll describe that system and they'll be like, I'm a sexual blueprint. Right. But men were also all conditioned to be all of us were conditioned to be sexual blueprint. We didn't realize that like this other stuff could actually be arousing and considered erotic.
Well, especially when all the education is kind of really aligned towards again, the sexual, very clinical description, anatomy, physiology. Like that didn't surprise me at all.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. We don't even know that like these other things could qualify as erotic in nature.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll come in and they'll be like, I'm a sexual blueprint. And then when I work with them, I'll say, maybe over time identify that they're actually energetically very sensitive. Like they can pick up on little things being off in their partner or in the relationship. They're the kind of person who says like, hey, is there something that you want to tell me?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's something in the air
vibe's
between
off.
us. The vibe is off. Right. And then they wonder why they, are ejaculating so quickly. And it's because they're so extremely sensitive. And then as soon as they sort of like close that gap, it's overwhelming for their system and their system responds in kind. And it can look, that's just one example of the ways that it kind of exists in bodies. But the system as a whole, I remembered for myself where we got over here. So kink in particular, right? I think that there is a lot of power in the transgressive. I think people who are kinky or have like already explored their kink, and there's 2 ways of looking at the blueprints. You could say that some people are sort of just born with their blueprint stack. And I think everyone has access to more than one, certainly. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that I've met someone who just solely identifies as one blueprint. But for most people, like, they're going to need sensual first in order to get into sexual, in order to get into kinky. Or they actually need to start with kinky before they can move over to energetic. I think all of us sort of like have an entry point and then other areas that makes available to us. Jaya herself believes and teaches that not everyone has all of the blueprints in them. I and some other blueprint coaches believe that actually everyone does have access to all of the blueprints. And the way that I like to go about that is by actually taking them outside of the bedroom and showing folks where they have access to these in other areas of their life. So you have access to the kinky part of you when you are enjoying breaking a rule. like when you're kind of like getting away with something, you know, whatever that is. It's highly subjective, like I said. So there is a lot of power in working up against something where we experience any degree of shame, right? Especially with like thinking about porn in particular and people who grew up in religious households. So you asked, do people end up having kinks when they have a lot of power? And I think that when everything is on the table, it's very hard to find things that are taboo enough to sort of like excite a response in someone. And I'm not saying that what John Combs did falls within the erotic blueprint framework.
Yeah.
But when I think about kink, like very broadly, I always think about it in terms of like, what was that person getting access to that was taboo for them and therefore gave them a rise out of it? Because the other shadow side to the kink blueprint is that you can need higher and higher and higher degrees of intensity in order to feel the same level of stimulation.
Makes sense.
And that sort of sounds like part of that case.
It seems like what they were doing grew in size and scope. To me, the power dynamic too, it makes sense of the Epsteins of the world and tied to very powerful people who honestly they could pay for whatever they want and kind of do whatever they want. Why would you do that? Why would you associate from a person like that? And I'm not justifying it in any stretch, but it makes more sense to me. Oh, it might actually just have been about the power dynamic, which if your power dynamic is to prey upon people, I hope that I meet you one day with a potato peeler.
Right.
You know?
I hope that you find some just good old-fashioned adversity in your life so that you can know what it feels like to overcome a challenge and not have to victimize marginalized and vulnerable people for, to get your rocks off.
Yeah. Do you recommend for couples, even if they think the classic, like our marriage is perfect, our sex life is perfect, do you still recommend they sit down and have a conversation about this? It's analogous
about the erotic blueprints in particular?
Well, erotic blueprint or just sex in general. Are you getting out of this or being honest about what it is for you? Because the easiest thing to say is everything's great, everything's perfect. But I don't think that's the reality for anybody. Like I said, I know those people just go into the categories of lying about that particular thing. But to me, it's analogous of checking under the hood before the check engine light comes on.
Right. Yeah, I use the check engine light a lot as an analogy. I think that just because something is good doesn't mean it can't get better. And it can be really scary to kind of like peel back and say, like, what is it that is actually going on? And are there ways in which this could improve, especially when it can touch on insecurity for so many people? It can go straight to like, I'm not enough, straight to defensive,ness, like, but it was fine before. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong. Nothing has to be wrong for something to improve. Like there's nothing wrong with my home or my, my like skiing technique, but I'm still going to take a lesson because I want to enjoy it more and I want to get better. Yeah. This is not about fixing anything a lot of the time. So I think often, especially in long-term relationships, there probably on both people's sides, there are some things that they would like to say, right? Maybe it's often, and I teach that this always has to come first in having these more vulnerable conversations. We got to begin by clearing the air and cleaning up anything that hasn't been said or hasn't been acknowledged, right? Yeah. Because if we don't do that, then we're sort of like working in a field that has like a whole bunch of like rocks and twigs.
Landmines.
And
you're going to step on one too.
Yeah. You're going to step on one. So go through and like do the work of clearing all of those out. And then you've got a free space that you can run around in. And when you can run around everywhere, then you're safe to go everywhere, right? So clean up everything that needs to be cleaned up. We never took care of that. I never apologized for this, etc. I let resentment grow. One of my coaches said to me, this line I'll never forget: resentment is the biggest boner killer.
Michael, write that down for a t-shirt as well.
It's really good. You can buy it. I have it on my merch. That t-shirt's taken.
Yeah, damn it.
But I think you could also say, and I haven't made this t-shirt, resentment is the biggest lady boner killer too.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
So we got to clear up that stuff first. And then we can go from like, where is it that we would like to go from here? And I always tell people to make the distinction between fantasies that you want to stay as fantasies and fantasies that you want to make into realities. Because we all have some fantasies that are exciting and interesting to us, but like they don't need to come into fruition. We don't really want to have sex with a plumber, right? We don't really want to have that experience, but like it's nice to think about. It's exciting to think about.
Yeah.
So those fantasies that you can bring forward that fall under that category, if you feel safe to share those with a partner and they feel safe to share with you, that's cool. Maybe there are ways that you can like role play and like have an experience of that. Then there are those fantasies that you would like to see happen. Maybe it's like as straightforward as like having sex outside of the bedroom. Like maybe it is bringing a mirror or a toy or restraints into bed. It could be just experimenting with a prop or something that you haven't allowed yourself to experiment with. On a more extreme end, it might be like going to a sex club or even having a threesome, but these are very, very, very common things that people name that they do want to experience. They want to work with a partner to experience. It is a skill that we can all develop to be able to hear a partner's desires and fantasies and not make them about us or about us lacking anything. If a partner comes to you and they're like, I want to have a threesome, and your initial response is like, what am I not giving you that you need? Like understandable response, but probably you don't get that it's actually not about you. You can't give them two bodies at once. You can't. If you could, you would, right?
Do you ever see that actually working out though in the long term?
People who see group sex?
Is it group sex or open marriages? I've actually, if you extend the timeline long enough, not that I have a huge, data set to support this, but I do know of a couple of people, and over a long enough timeline, it doesn't seem to work that well.
Well, you could say the same about monogamy too.
Sure.
Over a long enough timeline, very few monogamous relationships work.
I think if you're the right person, and again, consensual adults doing consensual stuff could care less. I could tell you, for me, that one wouldn't work. Like I would not be a secure enough human being to be okay with that.
Well, I think we got to make some distinctions here too, because there is like the couple that occasionally has a threesome with someone who they met online while they're on vacation, right? And then they go home and that's just a fun thing that they like sometimes fantasize about. They don't remain in contact with that person.
Yeah.
There is a pretty big gap between them and someone who like is in a throuple and has a ongoing intimate emotional relationship with another person,
and
or
lives
in
in
like
the
a
spare bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so much range. And then we also have to there's sexual exclusivity, and then there's romantic exclusivity. And these are things that I've played around with a lot in my personal life.
Yeah.
And where I eventually landed is like I prefer romantic and emotional exclusivity. I want to be one partner with one partner. Part of that is because I really value my time, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about feelings with a bunch of people. It gets exponentially larger the more people that you involve, the more conversation and time goes into the relationship.
Yeah.
When I was younger, in my early 20s, like that sounded fun and I enjoyed doing it. Today, it's not how I want to spend my time. I prefer just like the simplicity of having one person, knowing that I am their person and that they are mine. It feels a lot easier. In terms of like sexual exclusivity, though, like I've been bisexual. I've identified as bisexual since I was a teen. Actually, it was my dad who told me that I was bisexual. He was like before I even had clocked it in myself.
Yeah.
I kept like wanting to rent movies with like a lesbian and bisexual leads, and my dad was like, I'm onto you, right? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you like, are you not seeing this? Are you not seeing this in you?
Seeing it in one thing, recognizing it is another.
Yeah, right. So, but my like desire to approach women, by the way, my comfort approaching women, to go back to like how scary it can be to approach the same sex, opposite sex, has like waxed and waned over time. But I really appreciate that in my relationship, I can express that like today on the flight on one of the airports on the way here, I saw this like incredibly beautiful TSA agent in her uniform and her like tight bun and her glasses. And I was like,
did it for you.
Wow. Yeah. Really, really unexpectedly, surprisingly, just like smack in the face, like, hello, did it for me.
Yeah.
And so like, I like that I can express that to my partner and that like, that's not where we're at today, but there may be a future in which like I wanted to pursue a sexual relationship with a woman. That's something that like he can't give to me. Yeah. And so it falls under sort of like a different, like a different category. Yeah. So you asked, have I seen it work long term? There are couples that I've had the pleasure of knowing or working with or being friends with for whom that really, really works. Like polyamory, having relationships with multiple people, it serves them. They're not like always open necessarily. Sometimes they have other relationships, sometimes they don't. The couples that I see it really works for, they really prioritize the primary relationship.
Okay.
And then, of course, there are individuals that practice what's known as solo poly, and they don't have like a core couple. They're like individuals that are doing their thing. And I guess it works for them. I don't see, we can't measure them by like the long-term relationship because that's not sort of the orientation.
Yeah.
Right. I think that polyamory and non-monogamy and open relationships became really popular over the last couple of years in media. At least they did in my world.
You see more of it for sure.
And I think it gave people the idea that they should try it. And I don't think that was accurate. It's not for most people.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's like to me, it's like an orientation. If you grew up suspecting that you could like love and have relationships with more than one person, if you had a relationship with one person and then like you really felt like you wanted to add another person into that relationship, even early on in life, as early as like 14 or 15 when you were first kind of like dating and trying these things out, you might be a really good candidate for polyamory.
Yeah.
If you have not felt that before and all of a sudden you like read an article in Vogue that describes this relationship style,
or you watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Right. And then suddenly you're like, oh, that's an interesting option. Maybe we should try that.
Ooh, you might lose it all, buddy.
And I would say I think a lot of people are they're looking at their primary relationship and they're going, you know what? I would like more. I don't want to do, this is my very hot take, I don't want to do the hard work that is involved in really taking care of this and making sure that like I can get all of my sexual and erotic needs from this relationship. That takes a lot
Let's
of work.
chase the new flashy shiny
There's
thing.
a new thing. Yeah. We're going to bring her home and that's going to like revive our sex life. Right. Now, you're adding another person into the works. Everything becomes more complicated, not to mention that person also has feelings, wants, needs, desires, rights. And yeah, I think a lot of people think that they will solve something or fix something, and all they really do is complicate and often make things worse.
Yeah, I can see people taking that option or choosing that option as an escape. More, How big have you grown your team now? Obviously, you started off at 16 knowing you wanted to go this path. How big have you been able to grow it?
So I have 2 full-time employees that are absolutely incredible. They are the machine that makes the entirety of Caitlin V exist and like operate in the world. So I'm very blessed to have those 2. And then we work with a team of 7 coaches who I oversee. And send clients and referrals over to those coaches, and then I have the pleasure of sort of like working with a lot of people through them, even though I as a coach can only work with a few people a year. And then we have so many contractors and agencies that are overseeing and supporting different parts of the business. So I have a web developer who I've worked with for a decade now who oversees my website. I have a social media team that supports me with like content posting and clipping and all of the things that, totally. go into it and can be that are a full-time job.
It is a full ecosystem in and of itself.
Yeah. I'm supported by maybe 14 or so contractors at any given moment, people that like come and go as per project basis. Right now we're doing a virtual summit on January 17th, cool. Which I thought was like, I will admit, I'll be the first to admit that I really thought you just kind of like jumped on Zoom and then you put people up and you had their slides up. And what I have learned is that, yes, that is an option. But if you want to deliver something that like really gives people an incredibly high quality experience, it takes a huge team in order to do that. So that's my humbling lesson right now is like waking up every day and being like, oh, we need to hire one more person. We got to hire, and one more person. Okay.
Here's something else I didn't know about.
Yeah, right. We need one. Got it. Okay. And we also need that other software. That software is very expensive. Are you sure we couldn't have done that with software that we already had? No. Buy the software. Yeah. It's a humbling experience. But yeah, it's grown. I never thought I was going to be a CEO. I started a YouTube channel because I wanted to respond to the need that I was seeing as there was a lack of people having the conversations that I felt they should have access to on the internet, and YouTube was pretty ripe for that at the time, and to this day I don't think that there's a really advanced and nuanced conversation about the subjects that I talk about in particular happening. Part of that is censorship, part of that is just the lack of communication and connection that exists when we're all sort of like in our own little boxes. It's certainly been a surprise to end up here with the size of the team and the business that I have.
Do you like it?
Most days, yeah.
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 Well, again, there's no perfect job.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I never. If you would have given me earlier in my life a piece of paper, as many pieces of paper as there are pages in this book, I would have written down everything that I thought I would have potentially
Yes.
done. Nothing I do now would have been on that list.
Totally.
Not a single damn thing.
Totally.
Except
Yeah.
for the first job in the military. Beyond that, it's like, ooh, didn't really forward think beyond that one. So let's figure it out along the way.
Totally. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I think there's wisdom in driving towards the things that we know that we want. Mm-hmm. And I think there's also wisdom in being open to moving where the flow of our life seems to be pushing us.
I'm leaning the older I get to the latter. I do think it's great to have goals. Otherwise, you're kind of a compass that doesn't have a true north.
True.
And so this macro goal, I think, is great. But does it matter how you get there? I think, and I have found in my life that, lift your head up like, okay, cool, I can still see it. I'm heading in that direction. I'm not farther away than I was when I started. But you get to a fork in the road, you're like, God, I have to make the right decision here, or otherwise I'm never going to get there. And now it's like, I'm going to be okay either way. Because I can backtrack and I've done that. I was like, okay, we're in a cul-de-sac. We need to get out of here.
I can climb back down that mountain.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you can, but you learn from that, and then maybe you recognize that in the topography in the next split intersection that you come up to. But the more I have tried to control things in my life, the less it has actually benefited me. And I don't think you can short circuit the experiences you need to have to get to that place, because it is tough to, I'm not saying surrender yourself to the winds of life, but I'm also kind of saying surrender yourself to the winds of life. But you have to be able to, you have to have enough experiences along the way to recognize that if you do that, you're going to be okay because you have the tools necessary to solve the problems in front of you. And I don't know how you short circuit experience. I'm yet to figure out a way where you can actually shorten that other than reps and time.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that you would want to.
Yeah.
And I think, as with most things, like what you're pointing to, is that the answer is both.
Yeah.
Right? The answer is like have goals and flow.
And what works for me may not work for somebody else, because again, my N in life, my data point is one.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And I really try to remember that, especially when people ask me for advice, or, hey, they ask me, what should I do and how should I do it? I'm like, I can maybe help you with the how. I can give you a template. The why, you're going to have to figure out that one on your own, because if you have the wrong why, or something I might think is the wrong why, maybe for you it absolutely clicks and that's your true north and you go, who am I to say? Because your N's one too.
Right.
You know? Yeah. What else? How big do you want to grow it? I mean, what else do you have that you want to accomplish? Is this your first book?
This is my first book.
Yeah. You're going to write another one?
I have a lot more that I want to say. There were a number of things that were a little bit more topical or timely that I took out of the book. Some of the stuff that we talked about today, like the state of men and boys and masculinity, and that was because putting that into the book in the way that I had initially envisioned would have made the book like very of this moment.
Yeah, it locks you in time.
And I really wanted it to be timeless, because sex is timeless. It's existed as long as we have, and even before, and will continue. So I wanted
Hopefully,
this book to like stand.
We don't know.
It might continue.
Demolition Man might become a documentary.
Let's not be so sure. So I did want the book to just exist as its own, and to be found on a bookshelf 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now and still be relevant, and it will be. But there is more that I want to say on like what I see as a coach. A lot of the conversation that we had today that like is a little bit more of this moment. Yeah. So I have a vision of where it might go. If I was to write a second book, I don't know for sure. Where is it that I want to take it? The mission for me is still the mission. It's get this information into the hands of as many people as possible. The question that I wake up trying to answer every day is, how do I empower more people to carry this message forward? Not for me, but for what I perceive to be the good of all. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we restore pleasure as a birthright? How do we make an army of people who have access to quality pleasure-centric information and have audiences of folks who will listen to them and take that message further and further and further? I'm one person. I can get it as far as I can, but I can get it much further if I empower people to carry it themselves and to carry it everywhere that they go. And so I think my job is to translate it well for the masses. You know, I think coming from the world of science and research to YouTube is first of all, a tremendous jump. Yeah. But it does give me a chance to take things from the evidence base, combine them with the anecdotal experience that I have from coaching, and put it out in such a way that people can really digest it and learn from it. I would love to continue to train coaches and work with coaches, because at the end of the day, as much as like I'm a content creator and now an author and a show host, like my heart is in coaching. I love working one-on-one with someone and watching them transform their life. That is what thrills me more than anything else. And so I want to empower other people to be able to do that. There are a lot of obstacles that exist for professionals in my industry. And the people who are like really phenomenal sex coaches, like their heart is just in helping people to do this. They're not necessarily great business people as a whole, generally. I actually was just pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed business building. And so that's something that I was able to do. But I want to make it easier for folks who have that gift to make a living giving it. I want to put sex coaching on the map. Sex therapy exists for a very good reason. It will continue to exist. Sex therapy is really excellent for folks who are dealing with co-occurring instances of like anxiety, depression, have severe trauma, have CPTSD, have needs that are beyond just like what the average person needs in order to like have a great sex life, right?
What's CPTSD?
Complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
What makes defines it as complex?
So it is from what I understand, it is a collection of symptoms and experiences that comes from like repeated trauma.
Okay.
And it is like a diagnosable cluster of symptoms
Gotcha.
that is distinct from PTSD. But I'm not an expert on that, and I'd have to verify. But there are a lot of people, I would say the majority of people who could just have a better sex life. And that if they had like a little better, a little more connected, a little more pleasurable, satisfying sex life, would have a better marriage, would sleep better at night, would be happier co-parenting. Like it's just little tweaks would make a huge difference in their world. And they may also feel a little bit more like excited to wake up and go to the gym or take their supplements or whatever it is. And so I want for sex coaching to exist in such a way that people feel like they can just access that, and that is a really simple and effective way to see a positive shift inside of their life and inside of their relationship. Like that is my ultimate dream.
That's awesome. We have been at it for over 2.5 hours.
Is that true?
Yeah. I just looked over at my phone. Your boyfriend will kill us if I don't get you out of here soon. We got to get you to the hotel. We'll end with where people can find you. But before that, where would you start couples? What's your advice you have for couples? Obviously, there's advice
for couples listening.
Yeah, couples listening, or just, anybody who, I mean, at some point, whatever preference you have, hopefully you don't live your life by yourself and you end up with a partner. What advice do you have for them?
So it's going to be two-pronged. Start with yourself, because you are the person who you have access to. You are the mind and the brain and the body that you can know to the degree that it is knowable. And so you have to start with you. Your sexuality pre-existed your current relationship, and it is something that you will have until you die. And so it is something that like you need to understand and even nurture for yourself and reflect on for yourself. It exists independently of the other person, and then it also exists with the other person in the couple. So start with you, get clear on what it is that you're thinking about, struggling with, where those things came from. Like know yourself sexually first. And also like understand that you can meet your own needs to a degree sexually, and that well, it may not be a perfect solution and it may not be a permanent solution. Like taking care of your own needs, if you have a partner who isn't or can't or is not willing to for whatever reason, like get right with you first. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And then as a couple, the place where I would start is I would go back to the things that we've kind of like addressed today, which is make some time, elevate the conversation.
Find a garden.
Find a garden. Actually, that's it. It's find a garden. It really is. Find a garden, schedule some time in the garden, and don't just schedule like a one-off in the garden. Part of doing that like process of self-reflection and self-discovery is going to be being able to have that conversation with your partner is going to be the part that allows you to not get defensive or go on the attack when you go to communicate with the partner, so that you can like have a quality communication. Take breaks. Don't communicate past your edge. Write things down. Develop a structure for communication. Repeat what they said. Go back and review it. Summarize it. Like, do all of the things that allow communication to be successful. You will find, again, in the process of self-discovery, that you might think, I want to have a threesome. But then you ask yourself one question further, which is like, what is it that would give me? Oh, it would have me feel really desired. Oh, what I'm actually looking for is to feel really, really desired. Okay, I can take that to my significant other. And I can take that to them not from a place of you're doing a bad job of desiring me, but from an earnest place of, you know what would be really fulfilling for me? If I felt like you really deeply wanted me. And here are the things that would indicate to me that I was really wanted. And then revisit. Go back to the garden.
Yeah.
You know, take it to a professional, take it to a coach, a therapist, take it to a friend who is supportive, not a friend who has a lot of spicy opinions and you know isn't going to be able to actually like hold quality space for you. We've got those friends. And then come back to the garden and keep making the garden safe. You know, I think that if you're a couple that keeps struggling, if you go to the garden and you end up fighting every time, what that is pointing to for me is that there's a lack of foundational safety in the relationship. You might feel like you're at risk of being broken up with. You might be in the habit of threatening. If you keep that up, you know, we're going to get divorced, or you joke about divorce or whatever. Like, you might feel like your previous relationship was so unsafe that you're now projecting that into the current relationship. But if the communication isn't landing, if it's not going forward, and if you're not seeing progress in time, that's an indication that the foundation of safety isn't there. And then for you, the thing to start with then would be to go back and get safe with one another, get safe with yourself, get safe for the other person, and help them figure out how to be safe for you. And once you have that, you can go anywhere. The sky is the limit. You got a lot of runway in front of you if you can get to there. That's good advice. Where can people find your stuff? The book comes out what? The book comes out on
Feb 27th.
January 27th. January 27th.
I was close. I got the
you
date
did
right.
You did. It'll still be on sale February 27th too.
That's true, but
it will start being on sale.
You'll get a much better chance of being on the bestseller list if they buy it in January.
Yes, and you know what? A book like this on men's sexuality. Quick side. When I took this idea to agents and publishers, I heard over and over again, men don't buy books, and men don't buy books on sexuality. And thankfully, I found an agent to represent it, and Hay House was excited to publish it.
Yeah.
But I would love to prove those people wrong by saying, yes, they do. Actually, men
buy books
do
all the time.
care.
I bought a book on the last trip I was on.
Men read.
Yeah.
They read. And you know what? A lot of men read like, you know, a handful of books every year.
Yeah.
So like, why not this? Like, let this be the book then, right? Read this book.
I agree.
So the book comes out January 27th. You can get all the bonuses and free downloads. And I made a whole thing on what I couldn't say in the book so I could get all that off of my chest at hblsbook.com. That's harder, better, longer, stronger, hblsbook.com.
There's some little Easter eggs on the cover. You probably can't see
you
it on
probably
that image.
Can't
Maybe you
see
can,
it.
but
You'll have to get the book in order to get the... And like I mentioned, we're doing a summit on January 17th, and it's free. It's totally free. It's called the Pressure to Power Summit. You can get more at the HBLS book website. And if you sign up, if you join as a VIP, you can get a signed copy of the book.
Sweet. And then you have your YouTube channel.
Have the YouTube, Caitlin V on YouTube.
Do you do all the other socials?
I am mostly on YouTube. I've been kicked off of every other social for talking about sex. I mean, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. I'm on like my 4th TikTok. But find me on YouTube. That's the corner of the internet that I exist in. And then I have 14 courses, like I mentioned, and you can get those at my website you can search Caitlin V or CaitlinVneal.com.
Awesome. Well, let's get you back to your boyfriend. I appreciate you making the travel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, of course, I am sorry that the snow conditions are what would be called by locals. What do you think, Michael? Dog shit? Would that be an accurate?
Horrible, yeah.
Dog shit, snow conditions.
Flood warning in December. You were born and raised in Montana. Have you ever heard of a flood warning in December?
No, I've barely ever heard of a flood warning in Montana.
Yeah,
that's fair, actually.
I only learned how to ski at like 33, and I feel like I got hip to skiing just as soon as skiing became impossible. Like, there's no snow here, there's no snow at Mammoth.
So here's what you're going to do tomorrow. You're going to go up chair 1, which is the top of the mountain, and then go down the backside. It is the most sheltered, and if there is going to be fresh snow or better riding conditions, spend your time on the backside of the mountain, and you'll be okay.
I will be there. Thank you.
Awesome. How long are you in Montana for?
I'll be here until Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully by then, and I'm lying when I say this, we'll get some better weather because I've already looked at the weather report and it's not going to be good. But
I know, but this would be a great opportunity for me to learn how to ski in various conditions.
That's definitely a glass.
I'm like relatively new to it.
Half full approach. I like where your head's at.
Yeah, I plan on skiing for a long time, which means I got to get those reps in now while my body isn't as fragile as it
Agreed.
will be in the future.
Cool. Well, let's get you back to your boyfriend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.